shape AI's role in our world. To commence, I invite Shri K and Shrivastava, IAS retired Director of India International Center, to deliver the welcome address. A seasoned civil servant of 1978 batch, Shri Shrivastava has held pivotal roles in the Government of India, including Secretary in the Ministry of Civil Aviation, where he oversaw significant infrastructure projects. His leadership in various public sector undertakings and cultural institutions has been instrumental in driving progress and innovation. Sir.
Distinguished guests, esteemed speakers, colleagues and friends. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to the National Conclave Odyssey of AI, Challenges and Opportunities Beyond DeepSeek, on the profoundly timely and formative theme from the code to conscious rethinking AI's role in society. We gather today at a pivotal moment where technology's reach into our lives demands a parallel expansion of our ethical and societal imagination. India International Center has over the years consistently served as a crucible for high-impact dialogue on issues of critical national and global relevance. Our past conclaves have been known not only for their intellectual rigor, but also for the tangible outcomes that they have generated. The National Conclave on One Nation, One Subscription, that is ONOS, held in January 2021, is a case in point, producing well-documented recommendations that significantly contributed to the Government of India's rollout of ONOS initiative at a national scale. In September 2023, immediately following India's landmark hosting of G20 Summit, we organized the International Conference on Open and Fair Data Ecosystems, Principles, Policies and Platforms, featuring a special roundtable on digital twins. The event brought together thought leaders from across the world to chart pathways for responsible data sharing, interoperability, and AI-driven simulation models. Discussions on digital twins underscored their growing importance, not merely as a simulations, but as dynamic data-driven replicas capable of transforming decision-making across sectors such as healthcare, manufacturing, and urban infrastructure. The conference not only highlighted the foundational pillars of data governance, but also catalyzed critical thinking on responsible AI and ethical data practices with perspective endorsed by eminent voices, including principal scientific advisors to Government of India and global thought leaders such as Dr. Binton Cerf. Continuing on the trajectory, in January 2023, the National Conclave on Data for Development explored how actionable data is the bedrock of effective policy making, public service delivery, and sustainable development. We emphasize the need for robust stewardship and protection of data's ecosystem to unlock transformative social and economic outcomes. More recently, in February 2024, we hosted a national conclave on AI in ethics, perspectives from industry and academia, highlighting the urgent necessity of embedding ethical frameworks into fast-evolving landscapes of AI and data science. It underscored India's growing leadership in promoting responsible AI, where bias mitigation, data privacy, transparency, and accountability are not just policy aspirations, but essential pillars of sustainable innovation. Each of these events has not been an end in itself, but rather a station along an unfolding intellectual journey, a journey we continue today. Today's conclave builds on these conversations but pushes us to think deeper. As we move beyond DeepSeek and similar frontier models, we are invited to reflect not only on what AI can do, but also on what it should do. From hyper-personalization to autonomous decision-making, AI technologies are outpacing our regulatory frameworks, ethical safeguards, and even public understanding. Thus, the Odyssey we embark upon today is not just about technological progress, it is about forging a future where innovation and conscience walk hand in hand. It is about rethinking the architecture of AI systems to reflect societal values, ensuring that advances serve humanity broadly, ethically, and inclusively. I warmly welcome you to engage fully with the today's discussion, and I am confident that your collective wisdom will help in charting a course where technology remains in service of humanity and not the other way around. I thank you all once again and wish the National Conference a big success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shri Shrivastava, for your insightful address. Next, I invite Professor Seyed Hasnain, National Science Chair at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and Distinguished Professor at Shandar University, to present the introductory remarks. Professor Hasnain is a renowned molecular biologist with over 300 publications and numerous patents. His leadership roles, including vice chancellorships at Jamia Hamdard and the University of Hyderabad, reflect his commitment to advancing scientific research and education. Professor Hasnain.
Distinguished colleagues and friends of the dais, it's a pleasure to be here. Pleasure because it's a topic on which many of us have heard. Some of us are scared, some of us really don't know what's happening. I must tell you, it was a meeting of our library committee of IIC, where after the meeting I requested Dr. Shrivastava that we should do a meeting on AI and ML. That was the time when DeepSeek had just been launched and everybody was looking at it. What is DeepSeek? What is DeepSeek? And I must compliment Dr. Shrivastava. He said, yes, why don't we do it right away? It was supposed to be held 3 weeks ago, but could not be held because of logistic reasons. But I'm very happy today we are meeting here. And I got a lot of support from Dr. Usha Munshi, about her I realized only when I got involved into this program. Wonderful digital scientist that Dr. Usha Munshi herself is. Before we go further, let me just ask this fundamental question. What is AI? We call it artificial intelligence. In simple terms, AI refers to the ability of machines, and that's why it's known as machine learning. Part of machine learning is AI, to perform tasks that typically require human intelligence, such as learning, reasoning, problem solving, and perception. We all think that these are only what the human mind can do, but machines can do, and that's what the AI is all about. It is capable of creating text, images, and videos in less than seconds. Quite often you would have been looking at your iPhone and when you type, it comes and tells you what next word to type. Because it has, over the years, seen what kind of who you are writing and accordingly puts in. Even the spelling mistakes come because it thinks that is a correct way, then you realize, and after that it doesn't do the same mistake. So it's transforming how people work, learn, and communicate. AI is a broad field encompassing technologies that enable machines to perform tasks, typically requiring human intelligence. But machine learning, on the other hand, is a subset of AI. It focuses on enabling machines to learn from data without explicit programming. Let me give you a few examples of AI. Self-driving cars. When I was a few months ago in US, and when I was sat in one of the cars, my driver was busy doing something else and not even looking at the road. And I was telling my friend that I think he should not be doing it. He's driving. He says, no, it's a self-driven car. It's a Elon Musk car, so you don't need to do. And that was the first time I realized that this is what AI can do. It knows when a car is coming from, and it was also not a divided highway. At that point of time, it was an undivided highway. But there was nothing at all, no accident, nothing. So that's what is AI about. You also when those of you who have Siri or you use Alexa at home, we don't use Alexa because Alexa means all that is happening in your house, in your room, is in public domain. Many often we discuss lots of things. We don't want that to go to public domain. But my kids who live in the US and who live in UK, they don't bother at all. They say, Alexa, turn on the lights. Alexa, heat the washroom. Alexa, and I was telling them that, whatever you're talking is also, it says, who cares? So, but things are different here. So, but this is all AI. Robotics, robots perform a lot of jobs, particularly in the areas of medical sciences where I belong. They can do surgeries, they can do almost everything that you can think of without actually entering your anatomical structures. Robots can do it. Healthcare applications, they can analyze medical images. And I'll give you examples from our own country where we have been using AI, rightly or wrongly, for the last few years in this area. And I'll give you a few concrete examples. And it can be useful also in personalized treatment plans. In financial investing, many of us do financial investing. In fact, I can tell you, till about a few years ago, I used to think that putting money in a fixed deposit is the best thing to do. You are assured of it. Then my friend told me that what a stupid thing you are doing. Don't put money in fixed deposit. You are paying interest whether you do anything or not, and every year interest is calculated. And depending on what maximum what you get is about 2.5% after deductions and all that. Then he suggested that do what AI allows you to do. And that's where we should switch over to something where you could do mutual funds and others where adjustments are done, and 19% returns I'm getting on that. And only I pay tax when you withdraw that amount, one time only, unlike income tax where every year it goes on. So that's what financial planning AI can help. Machine learning, on the other hand, can do spam filters. If there's some spam in there, quite often when you open your iPhone or open your Google, it says we prevented so many people from tracking you. It was all done by machine learning. So it knows. So this is already happening without our knowledge. Quite often we open, including iPhone, including a bank account, by facial recognition and just show it. Now that has its own problem. You must have seen in movies when somebody catches you and tries to rob you. If you are unconscious, they'll take out your phone and do on your face and turn on your bank account. So this is also what machine learning can do. Image and speech. Quite often when you say something, as I said, it immediately catches and says this is what you will be talking, because it knows from your history. And all these are high data, high capacity data. Fraud detection, to analyze transaction data to identify and prevalent fraudulent activities. And of course, most importantly, machine learning can be used to analyze text and identify the emotions. Today with ChatGPT, you tell ChatGPT that I want to send a condolence message to so and so. In a matter of less than a second, you get a complete thing out. How does it do? Because it knows about you, it has already data about you, and that is where we are living in a world where nothing is secret at all. Everything is may not be in circulation, but everything. What happened recently, why this meeting also became attractive to do, was a program that was launched by China, known as DeepSeek. It's a language model which outperforms other open source models, all other ones. And the fact that it became very popular because the process is remarkably stable, and they claimed that the entire model was developed at a cost of just $6 million. Later on, when people started analyzing, how can you use $6 million when others are putting, Google is putting, others are putting a few $1 billion, it turned out to be the actual cost of development is anywhere from 1.3 to 1.6 billion dollar. But anything of this can happen across the northern border. You're not too sure about what is the actual cost people are saying. They may say something different. And today, In fact, DeepSeek is facing bans and restrictions in various countries. They're not allowing DeepSeek at all for the simple reason of potential data privacy and security risks, because it's a Chinese company, and the fear is that any data that goes in there, Chinese government can access it and use it. I have used DeepSeek, but it's almost like ChatGPT, nothing else. So unless you put some other data, but the fact is, the moment you allow them to use your data to respond to things that you're asking, they have access to your data. So I think this is one reason why DeepSeek is not much in prominence. What are the applications of AI? Many applications of AI. I'll just give you a few examples. And this was a very, very interesting example. You've heard about what's going on in the Middle East, in the Gaza Strip. The Gaza attack was orchestrated by the chief of the Gaza commander, Ibrahim Biari. And Israel wanted to eliminate Ibrahim Biari. But Gaza has a very strong network of tunnels. It's been more than a year, and still Israel, with all its AI, with all its ML, with all its intelligence, does not know where these hostages have been kept. So it wanted to kill the chief of the Gaza's operations, Biari. So they developed an AI technology which was only used to find out Mr. Biari. And they teamed up with the National Security Agency of the USA, their own equivalent team. What they did was very simple thing. They looked at phone calls made by Mr. Biari. And based on the phone calls and the data around that place, they identified that Mr. Biari is currently in this tunnel, in this place. Of course, plus and minus so much, and that is the reason why he was finally killed, bombed and killed, but 150 civilians also died. So I think this has a moral for us also. I'm not saying that we should kill civilians, but the kind of atrocities that across the border people are coming and doing, I think we should also think of using AI and ML to see how we can pinpoint. And today it's possible not just to pinpoint with a level of accuracy of this room. That is something where it would have been good to kill somebody, because then only that person would have gone, but unnecessarily civilian casualties were also taken. One of the biggest application of AI and ML has been in the area of human health. There's a person known as Demis Hassabis. I was in University of Chicago last year in December, invited to give a talk. I'd been invited a few times, couldn't go, but this time I thought, let me go. The person was very, very keen that I go. When I reached there, I was told that University of Chicago has 100 Nobel laureates, the third highest ranking university in the world that has in its faculty 100 Nobel Prize winners. And the latest one is the person I'm talking about, Demis Hassabis, just a 34-year-old person who got his Nobel for the work that he did, which was a PhD work 4 years ago. And for this work, he got the Nobel. What was the Nobel for? To develop an AI program to look at the sequence and the structure, correlate the sequence with the structure of protein. What are proteins? Proteins are our building blocks. They actually one which translate our genetic material into functions that we different do. So they have to have a structure. Normally, this whole process takes a lot of time. He could do the structure determination. Hassabis and his other two colleagues from DeepMind in Cambridge, UK, they could do that in a matter of 1 year. What people have been doing, putting time for 10 years and do only 1%. And for this, he got the Nobel Prize. And Hassabis says that AI will revolutionize healthcare by drastically accelerating drug development from years to weeks. Today, if you have to develop a new drug, it costs anywhere from a few $1 billion to minimum 10 years. That is the time, unless you are forced with a situation like COVID. In one of the editorial I wrote for the Lancet, I said, I think we have to learn from COVID. Learn from COVID to address diseases which we are neglecting, even though the largest number of people dying across the world of TB are in India. And any new drug anywhere in the world takes about 10 years to manufacture. But in COVID, we developed a drug in a matter of few months, less than a couple of months, and we could market it. So things were expedited. So why can't we expedite this also? And it's possible. I don't know. It's for the powers that be to do it. But according to IBM, artificial intelligence is rapidly transforming modern medicine by enhancing diagnostics, accelerating drug development, and personalizing patient care. AI tools now assist clinicians in analyzing conditions like cancer, analyzing images or sepsis and making real-time treatment. Back here in our own country, just a few kilometers away from here, the All Indian Institute of Medical Sciences has been working on a program, AI program, and they call it Madhu Netra AI. Madhu is a small soft acronym for diabetes. Netra, as we know, as eye, and AI, as we all know. What is Madhu Netra AI? This is a program developed by the Ministry of Human Health and Welfare, Government of India, along with a private company, Vadhvani AI. And what they have done, they looked at all the fundus data of the eye of across patients coming to AIIMS. And I tell people, AIIMS is one place in the world where the number of footfalls that you don't have anywhere else in the world. The doctor who treats you at AIIMS is the most experienced doctor compared to any other place in the world. Any place that you can talk about, they don't have that kind of experience. So large volume of people, numbers of people come and they do this analysis, they do this data. So what they did was they captured all the data and developed a screen by which the AI can detect early signs of blindness, complete total blindness, more so if you're diabetic. Otherwise, if you're detected early, you can be treated early, and then you don't lose your vision completely. Otherwise, you can be completely blind. This is actually happening right here in our own country, in our own city, next door. And this is happening with sensitivity of 95%, a specificity of 96%, and overall accuracy of 95%. Imagine the comfort level that you have. This is happening. One example, I can give you many other examples from our own country. And that is what it is. In fact, about 5 years ago, my own lab, along with the lab of Dr. Nasreen Ehtisham, who is here in the audience today, we developed an AI-based, ML-based prediction of resistance to Mycobacterium tuberculosis bacteria. What is this bacteria? This is a bacteria that causes TB. And what is TB? TB is tuberculosis, which we all know is not a disease that attracts the funding agencies, that does not attract the multinationals, because there's no money. People generally think that the poor and those who are financially not very good, they only get TB, which in a way, to a large extent is true. But I can tell you, one of the prime ministers of a country had TB, recovered. One of our most eminent living today, hero, Bollywood hero, had TB and survived. So it's not that only the poor people suffer from TB, others also. So there is clearly a market for that. But this kind of work that we published 5 years ago using AI and ML to identify where are the mutations in the bacterium and what these mutations can end up into drug resistance and how. This is something we are continuing to go. So AI is poised to become a core component of global healthcare system. The future of medicine might not lie in syringes and surgeries, that's a prediction, but in circuits and codes. Users must be able to handle AI appropriately, classify results, and recognize errors and deliberate manipulation. Some people do try to deliberately manipulation, which is happening. Today, you're also, thanks to AI or ML, you are getting bogus phone calls saying that you are under arrest. The arrest is, they call it not actual arrest, a virtual arrest. The word arrest itself triggers hyper blood pressure in your body. Oh, somebody's going to arrest me. Why? And all kinds of things happen. So there are artificial manipulations also, and that's where putting data is a problem. And that's where one has to be careful about it. But the bottom line is, from making our life easy to imagining cures, the future of medicine may lie in intelligence not born, but built through AI. This is a very important thing. Intelligence which is not born, you're not born with it, but you are built through it. And that's where it creates other issues, which I'm coming to it very shortly. While current AI models are still limited by lack of true curiosity and intuition, it is not too distant a future. AI ML won't just solve scientific problems, but will also become imaginative to identify what are the new discoveries that are going to come, what are the new hypotheses that are going to come. And that's where it can be a boon to scientists like us who would like to use AI to find out where is the world moving, what is the next big problem that's going to come. It will happen much sooner. Future safeguards and caution. Everyday life is increasingly influenced by algorithms based on AI. The influence of AI on individual psychology, behavior in groups and societies, and the question of AI regulation are very, very important. We must prevent misuse of AI by fraudsters and keeping increasingly autonomous AI systems aligned with human values. I must tell you, these could be very, very challenging. It's not going to be easy to do this. But I firmly believe, and I repeat, I firmly believe that the Indian mind is the most intelligent mind in the world. People say Jewish mind is the most. I don't believe that. It's Indian mind, or Jugaad mentality is something that is unbelievable, unbeatable. You know, the US program to launch satellites and launch Apollo missions cost at that time $26 billion. And today it was approximately $270 billion. And India landed a vehicle on moon at the cost of just about $75 million. It's because of our mind, because of what we can do. And I think it's high time we need to get AI, ML, backed by powers that be, not the way we are doing in a very very casual way, but in a sincere way, the way Google and DeepMinds and others are doing it. We need to put money. The private sector has to put money. In fact, all the AI developments, most of them have happened because of private sectors putting in money, not the public money in the US or UK. With this very few words of introduction, I would like to formally welcome my colleagues who have agreed to accept our invitation to be here. Dr. Debasisa Mohanty is a product of IIT Kanpur. He is a PhD from IIT Bangalore. In fact, many of the people that you'll be hearing today, I've been associated with them either through my institution or through my affiliation or through my selections or whatever. He did PhD from IIT Bangalore, postdoc at Hebrew University, Israel, and Scripps Research Institute, La Jolla, California. He is one of the most well-known computational biophysicists who works on systems biology approach. He has been a recipient of many awards, including the prestigious National Bioscience Award, and elected to all the science academies of our country. He is currently the director of the National Institute of Immunology, Professor Debasisa Mohanty. We have here Professor Ganesh Bagler. Professor Bagler is sitting right on his left. He is an MTech from University of Hyderabad. So in a way, I don't know if he was there when I was working for University of Hyderabad. So he has that Hyderabadi connection. PhD from CCMB, another very prestigious institute in Hyderabad. And he carried out postdoctoral research at Max Planck, again an institution where I had been very closely associated in Germany. He worked subsequently as a faculty at IIT Jodhpur and is today a full professor at the IIIT, which is very close from here in Delhi. And he works on computational gastronomy. It's a very interesting topic. Looking at food not just as art or your wife's best pair of good hands, but as craft and skill, but also as a science. And that is something you'll hear from him directly for him. And this is without trial and error, which can be time consuming and wasteful. We have another speaker here, Professor Shandar Ahmad. Professor Shandar Ahmad is right there. He is a professor at the School of Computational and Integrative Sciences. A former dean of the school, he moved to India after working for over a decade in National Institutes of Biomedical Innovation and other institutes in Japan. He was a faculty member in Japan for more than 10-12 years. His expertise include genome, phenome. Phenome is what we are. Genome is what we are built with. So genome-phenome association is what Professor Shandar works upon. I noticed a very interesting thing in his website. He initiated Sci-Y Lab. What is Sci-Y Lab? Sci-Y Lab stands for Scientific Query for Human Health and Happiness. So many of us, I spend my time listening to ghazals and music and Geets and others. He does very different things. He considers science, poetry, and pretentious thinking as his passion. At the same time, doing excellent work, excellent science. This is something I did not know till I was going through his background. He continues to have national, international collaborations with some of the top institutions of the world, whether it's NIH or the UK institutions, Japan, France, Australia, etc., and is having very nicely, heavily funded international and national grant. We have one more speaker who is again a PhD from IIT Delhi, place where I work now, Professor Naveen Kumar. He received his PhD in computer sciences from IIT Delhi, MTech and MSc mathematics from again IIT Delhi, and an honors degree in mathematics. So you can see the people we have gathered here today, none of them are actual biologists. They are all people who have gone into biology because of the value that biology, because of the attraction that biology has for them. And that's where it is. So Professor Naveen Kumar is a senior professor at the Department of Computer Sciences, University of Delhi. His current areas of interest include explainable AI, machine learning and deep learning, a member of curriculum design committees of various universities. The latest that's being taught, a lot of it has to do with what he has been able to design. And he's a member of several workshop, conference and symposia committees. Thank you for coming here, Professor Kumar. One more discovery I made during my task assigned to me by Shrivastava Sahib to do this meeting, half-day meeting, was to meet Dr. Usha Mujoo. I met her as a chief librarian. When I started doing work on her, trying to find out what she is, because some of the questions she was posing to me, I thought, यार ये library वाले लोग तो ऐसा सवाल पूछ नहीं सकते, ये कैसे पूछ रहे? Then I did a lot of due diligence and I realized that she is a content and communication expert with a background in media, content development and education. She's a thoroughbred data scientist. I don't know how you got her here, Dr. Shrivastava, to be at the librarian here, but I think we have to make use of her stay here to move the next leap. She has over 25 years experience across industries, spanning research, editing, writing, education and training. She has been a recipient of the Fulbright Fellowship. I happen to be search committee members for this kind of fellowship, and I didn't realize that here is a person who has been a Fulbright scholar before. And not only that, she has worked as a faculty at institutions such as IIPA, CSR INSDOC, ISI, not the ISI Pakistan, but Indian Statistical Institute in India, Kolkata, and many other places. She also happened to be President, Information and Communication Society of India, a very prestigious body of such people who worked on data science. A former president sitting with us here in this committee today. And she is also the member of the board of journals of journals such as Data Science Journal, another very prestigious journal, ICSU Co-Data Paris Journal, and chief editor of the Journal of Data Science and Research, published from the USA. Currently, Dr. Munshi is chief librarian, India International Center. Thank you so much for being here, and I would like to now invite you to take over from here and invite the other colleagues.
Thank you, Professor Hasnain, for setting such an inspiring and thought-provoking foundation for today's conclave. Now we proceed to the technical sessions, and I request Professor Hasnain to moderate the session. Over to you, sir.
Debasisa, Mohanty, as I mentioned, Director, National Institute of Immunology, and he's going to talk about navigating the new world of AI/ML, a user's perspective. And I make a request to all my speakers here today that the audience you are going to hear, that will be listening to you, are people who don't understand any
first one
at all. So you have to be as simple and as generic as possible.
Sure.
Not specific at all. And they have all agreed. I think I'm loud enough. But I'll keep it. And I think we'll request all of you to please start.
Yeah.
You have about 25 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you, Professor Hasnain and Dr. Shrivastava and Dr. Usha for giving me the opportunity and talk to this distinguished audience. So, what I am going to talk to you today is the navigating the new world of AML, the user's perspective. And so, I mean, this is, I think AI you have been all hearing, and Professor Hasnain told how it is almost all pervasive in science to our daily life, spam filtering and Siri and all this. But this year has been special. There are 2 Nobel Prizes which have gone to AI. So Nobel Prize in Physics went to Huffield and Jeffrey Hinton for doing what you can tell probably in oversimplified way, the fundamentals of AI. So the way they developed this neural network, this is called biology-inspired computing. And this is tries to mimic our brain. See, let us say you have the neurons, and there are firing of the neurons, there are signals between the neurons. If you present it as a computer, this slide, as a network, then you can feed data to it. And this is the way, if you train this network, it can learn as the human brain learns. It's a very simplistic representation of human brain. So when I first read about it, when you discuss with colleagues, like if a physicist says that, okay, this is the representation, mathematical representation of brain, a biologist will say, this might be your brain, our brain is much more complex. But those days, probably nobody believed that this sort of simplistic representation can have so much of power. Of course, there are many more developments which have happened, but the great science lies in how a complex phenomenon you can simplify and represent and all this. And the other thing which happened is, among the many other applications of AI, which Professor Hasnain said and all, he also told about Demis Hassabis's work. These are the people, Denis Hassabis, John Jumper, and David Baker. They got the Nobel Prize for the problem of protein structure prediction. So this has been an area which was the way he said that all the people who come from biology come from different disciplines. So these are the type of problem which has attracted, because it was thought to be the unsolved problem. So given the sequence of a protein, and can you tell what sort of 3D structure it is going to adopt? So this physicist tried to solve it in their own way, like based on interactions, or where this left side is the physicist way of solving the problem, whereas biologists would try to use evolutionary information. If two proteins have similar in sequence, they will have similar in structure. But each of these physicist method and biologist method has their own limitations. We had reached, over years, we had reached up to certain level. Maybe if you put it in a scale of 100, we had reached up to 40 or 40, 50 or things like that. When AI came, and AlphaFold, the first version it came, we went to 60, and the 2020 when AlphaFold 2 came, this reached almost 90. And here what you see is a predicted structure and an experimentally determined structure. They become almost superimposable. And Professor Hasnain has already told why proteins are important. But the main thing is, if you want an experimentalist has to solve the structure, it's quite time consuming. You can't solve all the structures. And over years, we have millions of proteins, but we have solved structures only about 2 lakh proteins. But AI could make use of those 2 lakh proteins to solve this problem, and that is what is a data-driven science. And I would just quickly go over this. Professor Hasnain has already told you, like you have artificial intelligence, which is the superset. Machine learning is something ability by machines to run explicitly, without being explicitly programmed. It can learn from data, and you can say derive rules, and based on that it can do prediction. In artificial intelligence, you have to enable machines. It is a rule-based, and deep learning is a sub-branch of machine learning. Probably you are using not only neural network, you are using deep neural network. That means many hidden layers in an oversimplified way. And LLMs are the large language models, is again a type of deep learning type of thing where it is extending in a different direction. This is the timeline where it has developed from 1950, you think of Turing test, to now 2025 ChatGPT or DeepSeek, and that is the timeline. So the way all this has been possible is, let us say you want to, we all know computers are good at numbers. If you give something with a formula, it is easy to do it in the computers. But if you have to distinguish between these two pictures, this is Tom, this is Jerry, it is not easy to make a rule or a formula by which you can tell what is it. But this is where comes into play. If you some way represent them as numbers, and so these are the numbers which is representing Tom, these are the numbers which is representing Jerry, and you use a Hopfield type of network, neural network, you will be able to predict what is Tom, what is Jerry. You can distinguish. An easier way to distinguish would be if you go to the character recognition. So if you want a computer to recognize character, all of us don't write 1 as a vertical bar or 0 as a perfect circle or perfect ellipse. So rule-based methods will fail here. But now you imagine whatever may be the shape, you put it onto a grid, and make a fine grid. It is like some pixel in your TV screen or something. If some part of this writing touches the grid, you put it 1. If it is not touching, put it 0. Now, whatever may be the shape, you will convert it into a string of numbers 10, 10, 10, and these numbers becomes a feature representation, sometimes called feature vector of the symbols which you are making. Once you do that, you feed it to a neural network model like this, and this model will do some mathematical transformation. It will put some weights and optimize the weights over the process of training, and it will be able to, if you train with a handwriting of a large number of people, then you will be able to, these weights will get automatically adjusted. Now you give any of the symbol, your character record. That is how the OCR and all these things are working. So this is a simple representation, and same way you can apply this type of principles to any field. Like the example which this is a different example the Professor Hasnain gave a couple of years back. He developed a model for predicting the drug resistance tuberculosis, because if you go to find out drug resistance, a clinic, if you do a phenotypic DST, it can easily take up to 2 months for the doctor to know, because TB is a slow growing bacteria. But if you sequence the genome of the tuberculosis genome, and now you feed it to a neural network model like this, it can distinguish from the DNA sequence, this is resistance population, this is susceptible population. So these type of models can be used in many different ways, but all this it requires, and this is where different types of learning, machine learning come: supervised, unsupervised. Unsupervised learning means you have the data, you don't have the labels. Like you have just the TB genomes, you don't know is it a resistance TB genome or a susceptible TB genome. But if you have that information, you can easily train using supervised learning, and you can learn which DNA patterns are corresponding to bedaquiline resistance, which is the rifampicin resistance. And so now in the clinic, if you can quickly do the sequencing, now what has happened is probably you could do sequencing in the clinic within a day or 2 using nanopore type of thing. This changes the treatment very dramatically. So these are some of the applications, but crux of all these is you need to learn a feature representation or something. So this is what I was talking about. If you have rules, data, if you know programming, or you know the rule data, you can do explicit programming. Whereas when you don't know the rule, by using the data and the answers, you can learn the rule. And that is what the machine learning is doing about. And coming to this problem of protein structure prediction, why it was so difficult, if you take, this is the top part which Debasisa did in AlphaFold 2, because to representing the character recognition, what I said, it was easy, relatively easy, but protein structures are much more complex, and this required many years of work how to describe protein structures. So these are the dihedral angles with G.N. Ramachandran in the 60s. He developed the theories how to describe a protein structure. This is called phi-psi plot. This is probably the only work from India which has gone to the every biology textbook. He did it in the 60s. But those days, there was no data available. There are only, even before the first protein structure came, he came up using theory how the atoms are interacting. What you have seen on the right, he drawn this plot, which is Ramachandran plot. This comes from theory. But today, we have these 2 lakh structures. If you see the bottom part, you take the same phi-psi angles and plot it. This is only data. You would realize that even if Ramachandran's theory we do not apply, by just looking the patterns where the data points are falling, we will be able to say, oh, this is the regions where protein structures are going to occur. And this is the power of training with a huge volume of data. And if you combine this, and that is that this I show to my students always, that G.N. Ramachandran had though protein structure prediction Nobel Prize goes to Debasisa, there was one more Nobel Prize in 13 also gone in this area to chemistry that relates to protein structure prediction. But many feel that G.N. Ramachandran should also have been recognized with a Nobel Prize. So this is the area we have enormous Indian connection. So coming to that, so now powered by the huge volume of data, what became possible is the Debasisa and all these things, they used not only this data and all, they used some advances in also the large language models or type of thing. So these to solve the very complex problem of protein structure prediction problem. So this is where one more work which is probably as important was, this is a paper which was published by Vaswani et al. So this is attention is all you need. This is a very important paper. This has been probably published just as a conference proceedings, but this has been cited millions of times. So now all that we are talking of representing DNA sequence, protein sequence, which we understand. But now if you want what ChatGPT is doing, computer to generate text or understand text. So this is area where you important not only understand the words, we need to understand the context in which the word is being used. So the sequence of words is very important. So by using a type of neural network called transformers, so they could encode how this attention, like this word is there, this word will have a different meaning in the context of the neighboring words. This is a type of thing they could encode into a computer neural network model. That is why these were called transformers. I will skip for the sake of this thing, but you can say that it is a more complicated version of the neural network I showed you in the tram, but this has the power that it can recognize context. And this led to something very interesting. If you see this, a equation which is a mathematics of computational linguistics, it is taken from MIT Reviews, an article on this. What it says is king minus man plus woman is queen. So what it is telling you, it is not just the word by itself. If you encode the words like this, you automatically built into it the context in which we use the king, the context in which we use the queen, and the context in which we use the man and the woman. So now, how do you, if you can develop each and every word similar mathematical representation, that what happens is that it is easy to represent in the computers. You can easily compare the words, compare their context, and that is what lot of the power of the machine learning and all these things come, and this is what has made it possible. So now you cannot not only take pictures, images or other type of thing, you can handle text and all this. And that is what was another development which largely came by use of transformers, or there is another thing called bot, which is again a version of the transformer. So this one, so now, so what you are trying to do is each and every type of word which is happening. So now I am representing like a vector. So these vectors has many dimensions, and these are the numbers I used. And so man represents like this, king is like this. If you put this equation, it will satisfy this equation. So the goal is to then how do we develop such vectors for each and every word we have? So this can be done if you use a very simple or some complicated version of the transformer or the network, but train that network with huge volume of data. Each and every sentence, each and every text, whether it comes from scientific literature, it comes from a regular literature or a news site or something, whatever, everything is there in the world was used to train such models, and this is how this sort of representation could be developed for each and every word. And that is what has given this one, and it developed one more capability, like the Tom and Jerry example I gave you a picture, you have to tell with this Tom or Jerry. You can say it's a discriminative AI. It is Tom, this is Jerry, you can say yes, no, binary answer. But now what Professor Hasnain was saying, you want to generate text, you want to give a sentence, this is the one. So you need what is called a generative AI. You want computer to generate its own text, own sentence. So now this type of thing, like this representation of the words as this one, or language models, though it is called language model, it can be used for pictures as well. It can be used for sound also. It can be used for audio also, but same principle can be used. But this gave it the generative capability. That means computers can write its own text, which will be like a human language text, human readable. So now if you say this bird is red, brown in color with a stubby beak, computer is going to draw this. This is not actually the picture of some bird which somebody has taken, and this is the label it has put and it copied from there. It's not a Google search copying. This is an image the computer is actually generating using generative AI. So these are all synthetic images which are made by the computer, and that made it enormously powerful. And for this you require huge language models and all this, and this can come from any plants or any music or something. So that is what is this is the oversimplified version. Even if you go to your Meta AI, which will be there with WhatsApp, put this type of text, you will see that you say animal with stripes, it will draw a tiger or a zebra or things like that you will find. So once this power, and this is all is due to the use of large language models. And when it comes to language, especially this type of models can tell you many things. It can help you in generation of text, in translation, summarizing a text. You give a 5-page text, ask it to prepare a small summary. So all this is possible by training these large language models on huge volume of data. And over years, people have been working for many years, and these are the language models which has been developed. So this was probably a research lab topic in a computer science lab or something. Nobody noticed. Probably when ChatGPT came, about 22, 23 people started noticing about the language models and all these. And over years, the DeepSeek is somewhere here. There are many more language models have been developed, and each has its own powers and limitations. So what it is telling you is, like the example of I gave you drug resistance of TB or picture Tom and Jerry or anything. So you have different types of models for different types of data. But with language model, you can take sound, you can take images, you can take video, you can take tabular data, you can take handwritten text, put all of them together and develop what is called a multimodal AI, whereas these will be single unimodal AI. Like each type of data, you are making separate models. So with this, so what are called the so far these massive foundation models, what ChatGPT uses or DeepSeek uses or any of them, this is the one. So that is why it requires huge computing power, and this gives it the enormous power. And of course, this model can be fine-tuned, or it can be prompt engineering can be done. Those are specialized topics. I will not go into it. But this has a power, like this foundation model, what it is doing is, you give any tabular data. See, let us say this is a data about different type of flowers, which a botanist would use. This is a data about the customs data, like books, which customers like. And this is data about patients. Traditionally, you would have used a different AI. This is patient data. You take the data, you make a model separately. But now you give just the Excel sheet with any type of data. There are AI models. It doesn't bother. It doesn't want to know whether it is patient data or it is the flower data or it is this. It can use this type of foundation model and discriminate these, separate these, or answers questions on that data. And that is what this is from a recent publication in Nature it is taken. It can accurately predict small data with a tabular foundation model. And so these are the difference. I will not, in the interest of time, like the examples of this foundation models are GPT-4, Llama, or Gemini is something which is done by Google. These are this one. And then they can be fine-tuned, and this one, I would skip this. And these types of thing, what is happening is, like now, when the programming came, like only people who are trained in computer science, they know how to program. The over years, what happened is, anybody with a little bit of training, he can learn programming, he can develop website, he can develop software or things like that happening. But now what has happened is, with this, there are so many tools which are available. And along with this, what is happening is, like, let us say you have things like RAG, which is a retrieval augmented generation. So these are the tools. What it is doing is, retrieval means the search, and text generation capability of LLM it is combining. By combining with RAG and all, if you want to, all the information which is in your website, you want to make a chat bot out of it, so that you don't have to search the website. You ask questions to the chat bot, it will answer. Just a entry level graduate trainee or something will be able to use these tools and do a simple RAG model or a chat bot or a type of things using this. So it has simplifies, and that has given us the potential. Like the IT revolution happened in 90s or 80s, when a lot of people could easily learn these techniques, and you have enormous amount of areas where these techniques can be applied. So now that has given us that potential by using this powers. And when you talk of LLMs, I would do Professor Hasnain warn me when my time is up. So you talk of about like what he was talking you about DeepSeek, how expensive and all something. It is something relating to what is the parameters. There are parameters which are associated with a language, any LLM. So now, this depends on, like, there are, if I showed you, this is the type of neural network it is using. They're all connected to each other. There are many weights, and to address a complex problem, train it with huge amount of data, with sentences with large context, you required very large networks, and this would have many number of weights, and that increases the parameters of a model. So if you see here, this is a 7 billion parameter model, this is a 70 billion parameter model, so that all refers to that. So now And so what is the advantage? These parameters decide model capacity and the knowledge storage. Parameters act as a memory of the LLM. If you want large memory, it can answer anything. You have to develop a model which has a large number of parameters. Like a 1 billion parameter can store more linguistic rules, facts, and context relationship than 100 million parameter model. And for example, GPT-2 was 1.5 billion parameter model, and current versions of GPT are probably trillion parameter models. And the performance of the task, more parameter allow the maintain a coherence over long conversation like this one, and perform multi-step reasoning. There are many things, but there is always a trade-off. So the more parameter model you use, you require huge amount of computing, and our normal computers have CPUs, and you need GPUs to do that, and that is what which makes it very, very expensive. So now, if you try to do this, these are the different parameter models, and GPT-4 is a 1 trillion parameter model. But with this, what happens is, like, what is DeepSeek? So DeepSeek is one of those models which, as Professor Hasnain said, they did something which is probably able to do as much as ChatGPT is able to do. It is again a language model like this, but what their original claim was, it was probably developed using much smaller resources. So there is again doubt about that, but it is indeed possible to, theoretically, it is not impossible to develop these parameter models using less resources, because there are certain problems on which, if you train it with enough data, we know from our experience in science, the simpler models can also predict results which are as same as you will get it from a more complicated model. So what it tells is, in future we have a chance of this one, and now all these models is, if we don't make our own model, like, of course, yesterday probably many of you would have read the news, Sarbam is the Indian first LLM is going to be, MIT is going to release the GPUs from this, and some IIT Madras and this India's first GPT like LLM type model which is going to come. So if we have the model, we can make use of many applications, we can bring Indian languages to it and all these things. So that is one point. And once you have these models, this has applications in many ways: customer service support, content creation, coding, and software development. You must have heard about, people are telling about Vibes programming. So what Vibes coding is, you may not be a professional IT person. You can use ChatGPT or any type of resources to tell, this is the project, write me a code for it. ChatGPT will write a code for it. With little bit knowledge of programming, you can modify it. People are able to make websites out of it, and certain amount of IT tasks that people are able to do. So these are the potential of these types of models. And like many fields, and biology, of course, has enormous application. I'll just give one examples. Like, these are the different biological LLM models. Like PubMed is the database where all scientific literature comes. If you want to train a model, like PubMed GPT is one such model. All PubMed abstracts has been used to train a model. And this PALM is the latest clinical AI model done by Google. So in terms of performance, it is doing as good as a clinician will suggest the treatment or things like. This is not saying that this is going to replace the clinician, but in a country like ours, where the number of doctors are very limited and this. So these sort of tools would prioritize patients, and the people who are this thing, they can be targeted to go to a facility or things like that. And with this, what is coming is that artificial general intelligence, which is like, it is not only classifying training data, you can do actual thinking and planning. I will not go into it. I'll just give you one example. This is a paper from bioRxiv. So people are developing AI agent of a scientist. So now the task which was given to this AI agent is, can you design COVID antibodies? And there is no human intervention. The AI agent will design, suggest experiment. Another agent will be the student, will replicate the experiment using the tools and all. They will give actual sequences which somebody will test in the lab. And this has worked. So that is telling you, like, if it is working in science, in many other things. If you want to have a AI agent as a salesperson, AI agent as this one, so you have enormous potential, and that is why I'll stop my talk here, and thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Debasisa. We'll have questions at the end of the talk, after the fourth. Sure. Can I now request Can I now request Dr. Shandar Ahmad? He will be talking on societal impact of AI.
So, talking of societal impact, I start with a couplet from Sahil Ludhianvi, who said, गांधी हो के गालिब हो इंसाफ की नज़रों में हम दोनों के कातिल हैं दोनों के पुजारी हैं. So, a scientist who works in the field of AI, a scientist develops, produces, discovers dynamite, and then names a Nobel Prize after his name after that. So, talking about ethics and societal impact in a positive way reminds me of being the killers and also being the saviors at the same time. Talking of societal impact is difficult to tell, because even those who work in the field of drug discovery, they know that the actual long-term impact of a drug cannot be really, even today we do not know. Sometimes the long-term impact comes several years later, we come to know what is the impact of a drug. So any technology, therefore, it is very difficult to foresee what will be the societal impact of that particular discovery or that particular. So, my lab was mentioned, Sci Lab was mentioned. Sci Lab in Japanese means happiness itself. So that's the play on the word that my lab is also known as. So some of the topics that I had been planning to talk have already been open to you, and I think you have all pretty much well understand this. I'll say it in a more figurative way. The binaries of smart versus stupid, so what is intelligence after all? And there has been a lot of discussion. I mean, earlier, before the AI came, the intelligence was studied by educational psychologists who wanted to understand and segregate children into different types of training programs. So that's why the IQ test came and etc. So psychologists, educational psychologists particularly, were the first people who tried to understand how intelligence works. And then there are many perspectives of this. The intelligence psychologists have thought that these are the three kind of tasks that intelligence does. It does the ability to take decisions, given some scenario, what is the current environment in which we are operating and what to do. This is intelligence requires to, intelligence comes to give you a correct decision, problem solving, and then anomaly detection. This does not include the creative intelligence that people have talked later, which is now more similar to the generative AI that we talk about. So as a computational model, we have, it is just a repeat of what has been said, and very nice presentations you heard. That you have input, you have a model, and then you have an output. So AI is basically in the center of this. In the field of AI goes one step further than the intelligent models. You also have the sensors and the actuators. So between the sensors and actuators sits a computational model, and together the whole thing can be considered to be an intelligent agent or rational agent in the field of AI. So the link between the artificial intelligence and machine learning is that intelligence need not always be data-driven. We are born with some natural intelligence to do certain tasks even before we have experienced the world around us. And over time, we experience the child experiences the world based on the feedback of right and wrong by the parental training or by their own personal experiences. They modify their behavior, and the modification of behavior is what is called learning in the language of the psychology. So AI is therefore a machine equivalent of human intelligence. So this tries to copy whatever human intelligence does. And ML is a form of learning. So it is somewhat different. AI is just a set of algorithms. Intelligence is a set of algorithms. And machine learning is a way of making these algorithms more efficient and parameterize them, giving them the right kind of weights to different inputs that these models are receiving. So since humans can also be trained, just like machines, I mean, we have been training humans. The entire educational systems are about training humans and trying to make them intelligent. So can we say then all intelligence is after all artificial intelligence? Because we are producing trained individuals who may not naturally be having the capability of answering those questions if they were not trained that way. There are three types of intelligence. Professor Mohanty just talked about the artificial general intelligence. In that context, you can think of the AI. Three forms: artificial narrow intelligence, which is specialized to perform a specific task. Then you have artificial general intelligence, which is a single AI model that can answer all questions that are pretty much a human being is interested in answering questions. So it tries to synthesize knowledge from physics, chemistry, biology, everything are combined. Can we replace all the human endeavors at discovering knowledge, how the world works around us, into a single model? So this is what the whole ambition of having an artificial general intelligence, AGI, is. And then beyond that, we can also have artificial super intelligence. That is when machines will be able to do better than human most of the tasks, and definitely much faster than that. So this is where we are in the field of AGI. So in some respect, we claim to have reached the AGI models. We possibly will reach artificial super intelligence models. So there are other similarities between the human and machine intelligence. I will not repeat them, but I would like to remind you that intelligence is not a human prerogative. Animals also have algorithms. They also perform intelligent tasks. And there is a whole field of computational science which tries to mimic the algorithms from the animals, how animals behave, how colonies of ants, how birds and other animals behave as a social entity and as individuals to give the intelligent solutions to the problems. And intelligence is also not an individual's game. It is a collective game in many cases. Like you have swarm intelligence, you have crowdsourcing adapted to solving many problems. So intelligence should not be just seen as a single human being, and the machines are trying to copy a single human being. They are also trying to copy algorithms inspired by animals and other living species. They are also inspired by how the crowd behaves. A genetic algorithm is one such example where we look up for this. So we talked about the different models of AI coming from DeepSeek is the name of today's discussion. It is inspired by the fact that DeepSeek seems to be threatening us like an AI model sitting next door to us. And where we stand in comparison, a quick comparison is this leads to the question of national sovereignty or security, that where we are when AI is moving that fast. So this was a quick comparison we published in Science India magazine. My quick one model that Professor Mohanty just talked about is Zero, that has come recently. And one earlier there was talk about Krutyam, one model that was developed by this company, this Ola proprietor Bhavesh Agarwal. He suggested AI model. Krutyam was the name of this model. And this shows the power of these models, how many parameters are being trained and what kind of data they have used and what languages they understand, etc. In the article we have mentioned, we have given more details about it. But this DeepSeek model has been able to do better than other models is partly because it relies on two aspects. One, RAG model that Mohanty just talked about, retrieval augmented generalization, and then also it does not train everything at the same time. At a given time when you ask a question, all models are not invoked simultaneously. They are invoked partially and then they are aggregated. That's why this model is also called the mixture of experts. So ethical question. There are many ethical questions and many societal impacts that can be talked about, but not in such a short time. So I'll cover one or two topics. One is the plagiarism and the sense of losing a dependable world. The way we see the world, we know the person, we hear a person on the phone, we say this is my friend talking, we see a photo, we saw a video, and we rely on that information. And with the speed and the rate at which the fake information and fake material can be generated, digital material can be generated, puts us in a quandary that we cannot really interact and operate in a society in a reliable manner. This is the first impact, that we are now living in a world where things around us cannot be really trusted. And for instance, this particular image, it took me just a few seconds to generate this image. Gandhiji talking, Einstein talking to Gandhiji, Einstein taking samosa at Old Delhi, playing chess, etc. It is not that this kind of images could not be generated in the past. This kind of but these images can be generated in a matter of seconds. And the speed at which you can generate these images, that is what is worrying. And that is why if anything that you see, you cannot trust your eyes. You cannot really go by seeing is believing, because seeing is not believing anymore. You have to see and you have to test, and then you have to perhaps come closer to believing. You still may have some doubts. So for instance, I showed this poem. I may not have much time, but quickly I'll say that these are the two poems, one written by AI and one written by human. And I have often given this test to this can be called Turing test of poetry, and asked audience, can you tell which of these poems has been written by a human and which is written by machine? Can quickly some of you raise the pink one by machine? Can you raise your hands? So there's no agreement. This itself shows that the poetry can be generated by machine as good as humans. In this, yellow is human and the pink is by the machine. So the thing is that this is, even if you can distinguish it today and Turing test is not passed by the creative writing, it may be passed tomorrow. It is not really a matter of that, okay, machines will never be able to write a poetry as good as human, or will not be able to write make up paintings or music, composition, any form of art that human beings do. Perhaps they will be able to do it better than this. Now AI itself comes to the rescue. Then the content creation, ethical or not, you have text generators, you have art generators, you have presentation generators. All these things can be done very fast. I can come completely, I may not be prepared for a presentation. I can simply ask ChatGPT, please prepare a presentation for me on ethics on AI, and the entire PowerPoint slides can come here. And I can also modulate my voice. I can attach some voice modulator, and I can speak in a more impressive voice. So this is what the idea is, that the world around us, the content around us, the people, their contents, their creations, their ideas, we cannot really rely anymore. This is the biggest societal impact, that society is not really as dependable, as predictable as we are used to. And we have to adapt ourselves to this. So ethical concerns are their fake contents, their privacy invasion, there is plagiarism, and algorithmic bias. So you have the machines which have been trained on some data, they will be optimized to that data. If there is a drug discovery tool which is optimized on the data of a particular ethnicity, then these drugs may not work on another ethnicity. So the data biases of different kinds are all inherently there in the model, and we will not even know that this data bias is there unless we see their impact. So AI is also, we should not always think that it is not an enabler. This is also always a problem. This is also an enabler and a friend. AI has the potential to streamline processes, accelerate content creation, error mitigation, analysis, and trends. So this is another example, attack models, different types of fake contents that can come. I think most of you are aware of these fake contents and the deep fakes, these issues. Just to draw that attention, but I should also say that fake contents are not invented by AI. Fake contents is invented by the human mind, which has been there for a long time. Fake news have existed for a long time. This is a cartoon from something like 1800 something. So even hundreds of years ago, fake contents were there, fake news were there. So it is not that AI came and suddenly fake news started appearing. This cartoon shows that people were aware that fake news exists, and they have been utilized as a tool of warfare. So creating so what is new then? What makes fake contents more significant today is because of the AI's power. AI generates these fake content more rapidly, and everybody has. So it is some kind of a democratization of crime, or democratization of the evil that has been made possible by the AI. Earlier, only some very expert people could generate the fake news, generate the fake images and the fake realities. So this AI's power to generate and the social media's power to propagate. So it is not just the generation is not enough, but the propagation. So the combination of the AI's power of generating fake content together with the social media's power to propagate that quickly. So we would all be thinking that AI is a villain, so AI, and by that extension, all technology is all evil, perhaps, and we should avoid technology. It's not that. AI, the technologies have helped us. Human life expectancy has been almost linearly increasing over the years. We in Indian life expectancy from 30s has risen to 70s, almost more than doubled in a matter of less than half a century. Yield of the agriculture has increased. So these technologies, so AI is just like any other technology in that sense. The things can be done faster. So what is driving longer life is because better healthcare, hygiene, medical science, disease prevention, all these things require AI as a technology, because AI is the most powerful technology of doing things today. So there are also AI tools which are coming to help ethics, to enforce ethics. For instance, detecting plagiarism, detecting the fake contents, detecting there are movements like this to discuss the PubPeer is there, fair data sharing guidelines are there. So we are able to tell, okay, this person has published a paper, this content is fake. We can tell using AI tools, we can tell that. So it is not just that we have to work, the challenges are proposed by ethics, by AI. We also have the AI tools to help us to meet those challenges. So who will address these challenges? Who can fix these problems? A combination of these: regulate, authenticate. We should have sufficient tools to authenticate the information, to alleviate fear, to investigate the veracity of the content, and altogether these can be called content distillation. So innovate and educate. Of course, education is very important to understand what kind of fake can be created. So then that is why these are a list of tools which are helping us to detect plagiarism. GPT Reader is there, GPT-0 is there, Originality AI, AI Detector Pro, etc. All these list of tools that help us to detect whether the content generated that we have is actually AI generated or really human generated. But there is a constant competition. The AI tools will also try to bypass this. So it's a constant war between the crime and the enforcement agencies. So second concern in the societal impact is that we often concerns, and especially the youngsters, is the employment. What happens if AI is doing everything? We don't need doctors, we don't need professionals of any kind. AI can do most of these things. So the problem is traditional employable skills are no longer needed. Then the solutions are there. Two solutions I suggest. First is raise the level of human endeavors. When we are saying that certain tasks will become irrelevant, we are perhaps thinking the pace at which human society, human civilization will grow will remain the same. It is not going to be this. I'll explain that in the next slide. Second is pass on the fruit of AI with equitably. So for instance, when I say raising the level of human endeavors, life expectancy, we are thinking of designing drugs, designing vaccines, which will work from, let us say, 5 years to 1 year or maybe 1 day. But we are also thinking of raising the life expectancy from current level to 100 years or 120 years. But the human endeavor can go much faster. People are already thinking, how can we make human beings live for 1,000 years? So raising the bar for ourselves and making these goals achievable, because now we have the tools and techniques, we have the enabling technologies which can take us there much faster. So people are debating how long human beings can live. They can live for 1,000 years. There is a lot of understanding. A lot of people think that human life can last for 1,000, 2,000 years. Reversing the aging. So these are some of the issues that perhaps if we raise the bar for ourselves, if we raise the tasks that we have to do, human activity should not be conceived, should not be thought about that human activity will remain at the same pace. We have to pace ourselves up. Now we have the enabling technologies. Now we have the resources to do those things. So we have to raise the bar for that. And that is why I think the employment loss can be compensated in this way by raising new opportunities, by raising new areas in which we can work, new activities, human societal activities. Second thing is that the fruit of the AI should be passed on to the common man. Here in this context, if AI is able to replace our manpower, companies are hiring fewer manpower, fewer experts, so the cost for production is definitely going down. They were paying thousands of dollars for doing a task, and that task can now be done with the help of AI by a few dollars. So where is this extra dollar going, which is being saved? This extra dollar should not go into the proprietors or entrepreneurs of that AI. The fruit of that saving should be passed on to the consumer, and the product should come to the market cheaper, and therefore the need to earn the money, need to have the employment that long term that used to have will automatically come down. So that is where the question is very important, is not that AI should be stopped. The question is who will own these AI technologies. We should not remain dependent on the powers who are not going to share these technologies, and we should have more democratic and more equitable distribution of the resources, particularly the AI. So in summary, I summarize this. AI is definitely a disruptive technology. It introduces new paradigms in human capabilities, similar to other breakthroughs in the past. AI's ability to generate contents that we use to decode the world around us with creates a disruption, but it will be adapted over time. We will adapt, we will understand what is fake, what are the possibilities, what are the limits of fake, and what is how to trust the voices that are speaking to us. AI substitution is not likely to make humans redundant, but AI substituting some of the tasks does not make humans redundant, but only dramatically augments their capabilities. We have to look at these AIs as enablers, and we have to think about the pace at which we can move faster and make our civilization better. Nations and individuals should think deeply about AI sovereignty, as those without foundational models of AI are going to be at a great disadvantage. This is the final message. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say.
Thank you so much, Professor Shandar. We now move to the next speaker, and this is Professor Ganesh Bagler. Professor Ganesh Bagler is from the Infosys Center for AI, IIIT Delhi, and he will be talking on computational gastronomy, blending food with AI and ML. Professor Ganesh.
So very good evening. So far, a lot has been said about AI and ML. You have heard about various ways ML and AI has been introduced in our lives in the last so many years, and how right from spell check to automated vehicles to in sciences when it comes to protein folding or drug discovery, AI has been used immensely. I'm going to talk to you about a special area called computational gastronomy, an area which we have been working in my lab for the last 10 years and touches upon an artistic aspect of our life, which is food and cooking. And believe it or not, AI has already started making impact when it comes to cooking, which, as I said, is extremely subjective and artistic endeavor. So computational gastronomy is a data science which blends food and cooking with that of computing. That's what it does. And quite clearly, while doing so, it uses a lot of data in the process. So I would like to tell you a story which has been in build-up for the last 10 years in my laboratory. In the next 20 years, 20 minutes or so, not 20 years. So I come from IIIT Delhi, associated with Infosys Center for Artificial Intelligence. And we have been doing this work for a while. If you are thinking that since I'm working on computational gastronomy, food and cooking, I must be a foodie, you are terribly wrong about it. I have been rather agnostic about food, definitely cooking. And over time, of course, I have developed interest in cooking. However, my primary interest as a teenager was wanting to be an astronomer, an astrophysicist. And of course, I have taken a long journey from astronomy, quantum physics, to computational biology, computer science, to all the way up to computational gastronomy. So it has been a journey from astronomy to gastronomy, to put it succinctly. We have heard enough about AI, as I said earlier. AI essentially tries to emulate human intelligence and creativity using a computer, using an algorithm, using a computational program, wherein a large amount of data is being fed into an algorithm, a machine, which learns patterns from out of those, thereby tries to find ways by which you can emulate human intelligence and creativity, to put it succinctly. I wouldn't want to elaborate on that part, since the previous speakers have done their job in a big way in this particular aspect. So artificial intelligence has been trying to capture human abilities for a long time now, human endeavors. And in 1990s, if you had asked any expert for that matter, that would a computer be able to beat a grandmaster, the answer would have been an emphatic no. But in 1998, it did happen that IBM Deep Blue did beat Garry Kasparov, the then world champion. And it turned out was a dramatic event in the field of artificial intelligence. All of us who are old enough to be, at that time, who had gone through this news would know about it. And it took us a while before we can reach from a game of chess to the game of Go in 2017, where we have a computer beating, AlphaGo beating the master in Go from South Korea. It did happen. You might think that these are configuration games and it is all about remembering various moves in chess or Go. That is what computers are good at. But then we already know for the last so many years that computers and AI have made long strides when it comes to generating text, such as in the case of prose or poetry, creating paintings, some of you already seen those, music, and cooking seems to be a faraway paradigm which can be taken over by AI, given the fact that cooking not only involves thinking, but it involves a lot of other sensory mechanisms, the gustatory, olfactory, the taste and the odor aspect of food and cooking, that of texture, color, sound, everything is included. Therefore, it is a multi-sensory and a complex paradigm which we can ask whether a computer can do in its own right. Therefore, we are asking in my lab for the last 10 years an audacious question about, can a computer think like a chef? And when I say chef, I mean anyone who knows to cook well. It could be you, it could be my mother, wife, or father for that matter, whoever knows cooking well. Can we capture the intuition and expertise of a chef, an expert chef in a program is what we have been thinking for a while now. When I say that, I must be quickly telling you about how we look in my lab, how we look at food. Cooking is a process by which we put raw ingredients together to create delicious dishes out of them. And these dishes have evolved over a long, long period of time. Centuries, if not millennia, they have taken to reach to us today and have gotten captured into the cultural rubric of our culinary space. And these recipes, therefore, if we were to think of them as chemistry, it is nothing wrong about it. It's an alchemy that we do when we cook in the kitchen. And human beings are very special in the way we cook, given the fact that no other animal, if you can remember, tell me that, no other animal knows how to cook the way we do. Sophisticated cooking is very, very special to Homo sapiens, similar to the languages. And that is where I believe, and I know for a fact, that the cooking, in addition to languages, is very, very essential to the essence of being human. And the reason why we have been looking in my lab, in food and cooking in a data-driven fashion is because in 21st century, various aspects of our life have gotten dramatically changed with the introduction of data and computing, right from railway reservation to the use of UPIs to use of Google Maps. Everything has changed thanks to the introduction of data and computing. We have to accept that. And given that, can we change food and cooking by introducing data and cooking? That's a question we are asking. And there are many reasons. Among them, one of them is, of course, the fact that food is so central to human essence, being human. Second is the health aspect of it. That the food that we eat, the cooked food that we eat, is central to lifestyle disorders like type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disorders, and other lifestyle disorders. And finally, I strongly believe that looking into the future of humanity and human civilization on Earth, in 2050, we are expecting to have a population of 10 billion. Can we sustainably feed these 10 billion people is a big question that we must ask. I don't know why Elon Musk is wanting to go to Mars, but if we are not able to find sustainably feeding ways for sustainably feeding us by 2050, we will definitely have to find ways of finding somewhere else, some other space to live in this solar system or outside of it. That is where I believe a computational approach, which has been taken in various other domains of life and sciences, is going to be immensely useful. And that is why we are daring to think of artistic endeavors such as cooking through the lens of data. That's what we have been doing for a while. I have used the word food and cooking, food plus artificial intelligence, as to attract your attention, but essentially it is food and cooking merged with data and computing. That's what we are doing. Now, talking about food and cooking, it has got multiple facets to it. I call them as the building blocks of food and cooking. That includes traditional recipes that we eat, because what we eat on a day-to-day basis are product of culture. Secondly, we have the taste and odor aspect of what we eat. Then we have the nutrition aspect, because we end up getting the proteins, vitamins and minerals and the other micros and macros from the food that we eat, how it affects our health in short and long run. And finally, which many of us would not want to acknowledge, I would say, the carbon footprint that our eating would leave on the earth. While many of us would not bother about it, all of these are rather important jigsaw pieces of the food puzzle when it comes to when we think of this problem in a first principle manner. That's what we have been doing. All the speakers, previous two speakers, have already highlighted the fact that the advances in data sciences and AI have been heavily rooted in, of course, data. In computer science, there is a jargon, adage, which says that garbage in, garbage out. If you do not provide quality, curated, structured data to a computational model, it won't be able to do its job, whether it is distinguishing between Tom and Jerry or drug discovery. None of this would be possible unless you have structured data. So 10 years back, when we started looking at data in the culinary space, of those of recipes, ingredients, the taste of ingredients, the health associations, we realized that there is hardly any data that is available. And that's when this is a snapshot of the work that has happened in the last 10 years in my lab, wherein we have created structured databases on various facets, culinary facets of food and cooking. And that includes RecipeDB. Believe it or not, we have today more than 118,000 recipes plus in our database, which are coming from 74 countries. And if you think that's a large number, it is not large number, because we have touched already at the back end around 500,000 recipes that have been compiled from across various digital sources that are available online and offline. And these are structured data, meaning that you can actually ask a question, show me all Mexican recipes having potato, chili, onion, but doesn't have olive oil, and uses roasting but doesn't use deep frying as a protocol. Such a structured query can be asked in this database, and it will actually pop out recipes if there are any matching to your query. Similar to that, we have other databases on the sensory aspect, the taste aspect of, odor aspect of it, health association aspect of it, carbon footprint, and many others. And if you can imagine that once you have such a large amount of data, you can actually come up with interesting applications. And I'm going to do one thing, which is to provide you one dramatic example of AI-based computational gastronomy, which can come up with, which has given us an interesting application, which is, I'll be presenting it in a short while. I would like to point out one thing, and I will touch upon what Professor Hasnain said earlier, which is that I'm very proud that this science of computational gastronomy has arisen out of India. This is not jugaad, by the way. This has been systematically done in a manner that we thought about this problem. Of course, we hit upon it serendipitously, as most of the good science happens. But having hit upon serendipitously, we thought about it consciously about how this science can be developed. And for the last 10 years have been consciously working on it and developing this, so much so that today the world has accepted it. They have been accepting and working on this, and computational gastronomy has become a terminology to propagate. And if you search on Google by computational gastronomy, turns out that majority of 90% of the content will come from India, and that too from our lab incidentally. So the paradigm that I have been propagating is called making food computable. Every aspect of food, the recipes, flavor, nutrition, health, and etc., can you make it computable such that AI algorithms can operate on top of it to come up with interesting questions that can be asked. And all of this actually started, as I said, by asking the questions which are rooted in Indian consciousness, if you ask me. We had hit upon an interesting question which I won't touch upon for the paucity of time in detail, but I'll just mention that. We looked at, if you look at recipes from India, are there the ways in which ingredients are combined in Indian recipes that is different from that of the world cuisine, if at all? Because there is an underlying principle that was being touted called food pairing hypothesis. We were wanting to check whether that hypothesis is true in the Indian context. Turned out that it actually is very different. The pattern of ingredient combination in Indian subcontinent recipes is very different. We tend to combine ingredients which are of distinct nature. The flavors of ingredients in the typical Indian dish is very, very different from each other, thereby creating a flavor potpourri in any given dish. That's what we discovered way back in 2015. And I do not know how many of you have read this, but in 2015 this news was a big one, and MIT Technology Review has highlighted our work as an emerging technology. What happened after 2015 in the last 10 years is that we realized that there are at least 3 major directions in which we can work. One of them is that there is a huge gap in building bridging food and cooking with that of data science and computer science. That had not been done globally speaking. We said, let's do that. Second, there are a lot of interesting applications when it comes to food and beverages and related areas, and industry is waiting for such applications, and we need to develop those. And thirdly, in terms of food has a lot of consequences for nutrition, public health consequences. We need to work on those problems. So these are the 3 dimensions on which we have worked in the last 10 years. And this is an example of the so-called culinary fingerprint, which captures recipes in a cuisine. What kind of a pattern of ingredient combinations do they tend to have? And this we did not only for India, which we completed in 2015, but later we worked on global cuisines, and we created the so-called fingerprints, the distinct patterns which recognize each cuisine in a separate manner by virtue of how flavor molecules are put together. And this research therefore got a lot of attention over a period of time, and was later, I named it as computational gastronomy. And for me, a pleasure, very pleasuresome moment was that it was on the cover of Science Reporter. I don't know how many of you know Science Reporter magazine. It's a CSIR magazine. And for me as a teenager from a small town called Sholapur was the window to the world of science and technology. And to be on the cover of it, in addition to being on the cover of many various Paris-based magazine, for example, was amazing. Now let me take you into the last thing, which is that of what is the AI application. There are multiple applications. In my lab, there are more than 500 research interns who have worked for the last 10 years and have come up with all sorts of interesting applications, but I'll be telling you about one of them. How many recipes do you think theoretically are actually possible? There are in the global cuisines. If I were to take all the French, Brazilian, Mexican, Indian recipes and all, what number would you hit upon? Would it be of the order of thousands, 100,000s, or larger than that? Not actually. This number is to fool you. But I'll tell you what. The number that has been compiled so far is of the order of 1 million. It's 1 million recipes, which is what has been 10 lakh recipes or so, of the order of. It could be 12 lakh, it could be 15 lakh. But those kind of recipes have been already compiled. Culturally created recipes, remember, over a long, long period of history of civilization, right? But how many recipes are theoretically possible? Now that's the right number. The theoretical possible number of recipes is humongously large, given the fact that a typical recipe, we know by the statistics that we have done so far, has 10 ingredients roughly speaking. It has a nice Gaussian distribution, normal distribution, and we have to the tune of actually 20,000 odd variations of ingredients. But let's bundle them into only 1,000 baskets. You know, all onions are same, all chilies are same, tomatoes are same. If I were to do that approximation, I have still 1,000 ingredients and I have 10 slots to fill. And if I start filling it, I will end up getting 1,000 into 1,000 into 1,000 10 times, approximately 10 to the power 30, give or take a few numbers here. Now that's a humongously large number because this is more than the number of estimated stars that are there in the whole universe. So it's a salivatingly large number of recipes that you can actually make if you were to combine ingredients. But I know the skeptic in you is already thinking that, come on, don't fool us. You can't randomly put ingredients together to make a palatable and tasty recipe. You just can't do that. Culturally and from sensory perspective, we have figured out how to combine ingredients. A chef knows it well about how to combine ingredients, how to process it, how much quantity to be used. You can't use asafoetida in the same quantity as that of potato or something else for that matter, right? Hing has to be used only so much, whereas a potato or an onion can be used in a larger quantity. All of these subtle details are very much available to a chef, an expert. Therefore, we asked a question, can a computer think like a chef? Can I capture the intuition and expertise of a human chef, something that he or she has earned over a long period of time of experience in a computational program? And this is where we drew inspiration from everything that has been told to you so far, which is that of if a recipe is a text, I'm treating it as a text, in which clear instructions have been given, step-by-step protocol has been given about what is the title of the recipe, what's the ingredients to be used in terms of quantity, unit, ingredient, pre-processing. For example, 2 large potatoes peeled and chopped could be one instruction, etc. And followed by a set of instructions about how to process these ingredients. Put tomato and potato in a bowl and boil for 10 minutes at 120 degrees Celsius. It's a clear-cut instruction. So the recipes are that way like algorithms. They can be written as a step-by-step protocol. If I were to treat it as a text, then like ChatGPT can generate a poetry, which you must have done already, can an AI algorithm, like ChatGPT can do incidentally to some extent, can it generate a recipe? That's the question we are asking. And now that's an audacious question, and to an extent we are trying, and the idea is not to insult the human intelligence that lies in a chef, but to say that can we imitate it to at least some extent. And this is where we took inspiration from the movie Ratatouille. I'm sure many of you would have seen this animation movie in which a rat is trying to move into the world of human culinary world and trying to imitate and learn the way humans cook. And this is a URL which you can try it out. You can go there, you can choose your ingredients of your choice. Around 18,000 ingredients are there. You can choose, but start typing and it will give prompts, prompting you. You can choose any number of ingredients that you want, and you say generate recipe. It will create a new recipe which no tradition, no culture, no tradition has so far seen, no civilization has so far seen. It might have some similarities, but it also has some differences because of certain protocols that the underlying technology involves, including what is called as a large language model, a text generation protocol which is going behind it. That's the AI underlying the hood that you see here, right? And we have created these recipes over a period of time, and the underlying protocol is like this. We started with scattered data, large number of recipes. I told you 118,000 recipes from 74 countries. Structured them, that's the most important part. I'm not getting into the details of it. We have structured them in a meticulous fashion by using technology called named entity recognition, identifying which part of the text is an ingredient, where is the quantity, which one is a unit, etc. And we have used strategies called fine-tuning using existing text generation models or large language models. We have fine-tuned these large language models, such as GPT, for example, which is behind ChatGPT, so as to create our Ratatouille algorithm, which can generate recipes. Now, the question, the key question would be, is that it's one thing for you to generate a recipe. If I were to generate a poetry, Shandar, Ahmad, or anybody else who knows enough poetry should be able to read and look at the rhythm, rhyme, meter, and should be able to assess, like we did just now, a Turing test, about is that a computer-generated recipe or a real recipe? And as Alan Turing in 1955, one of the founding fathers of computer science and AI, said that if a computer can fool a chef into thinking that on the other side of the door without looking into it, if it is a human, then the Turing test has been passed. Exactly in a similar manner, Professor Shandar Ahmad presented to you Turing test for poetry. Okay, same way we have a Turing test for chef. The idea here is that before we cook the recipe into the kitchen, which is what we should be doing and we shall be doing, how about tasting this recipe such that on an interface, recipes, the green ones are real recipes and the red ones are AI generated recipes. They are flashed randomly, 50% probability, and a chef has to make a judgment by reading it only. Because here this is only for chefs. So they know how a recipe should read. They have a judgment about it. They should be able to give a judgment on a scale of 0 to 5. Is it fake or real? Now on this scale, if you are able to fool a chef into thinking that a computer generated recipe is real, then our algorithm has passed the Turing test. Okay, before we cook it actually, of course, right? So we have done that, and our algorithm has passed a test to the extent of what is called as an F1 score of around 70%. Okay, which means a reasonable level of success is what we have achieved, but there is much more progress that we need to do yet. We are, of course, this was done in collaboration with IHM, Institute of Hotel Management, Pusa, by the way, and we are now in collaboration with Symbiosis School of Culinary Arts, Pune, where we are trying to cook these recipes literally in a kitchen and get it sensorially evaluated so that we know how many of these recipes are actually good in terms of sensory perception. Okay, we are doing that, and we are in the middle of that experiment. You should be knowing about the results soon, and hopefully, and I believe so, this will be the world's first ever Turing test for chef carried all the way up to cooking a recipe and evaluated sensorially. So we'll know how it works. By the way, we have tried these recipes, of course, some of them. Some of them are trashy, some of them are good, and we hope that with improved efficacy of our algorithm, more and more recipes which are suggested by the AI, generated by the AI, would be tasty eventually. So I believe that AI can transform your food in a dramatic fashion. And I don't mean only in terms of generating new recipes, but in terms of giving you recipes which are healthy, nutritious, cost effective. You can make it in whatever time that you want to make, etc. Remember, these are all kind of constraints that you can impose on the algorithm. You can say that give me a recipe which can be made in 10 minutes using potato, tomato, olive oil and chili and put ginger and some bit of turmeric, and make sure that it has calories between 200 to 300 kilocalories, etc. You can impose conditions and it will be able to generate a recipe. We call them as constraint-based recipe generation. In principle, this is all doable. And if once that is done, the culinary space is going to change it dramatically. And if you think about what is the direction that we are moving towards, just think of MasterChef having AI-generated recipe. Or a restaurant which is dishing out literally AI-generated recipes. You just go there and say that surprise me, and it will create a recipe for you. And hopefully it will be tasty enough for your own likings, right? That's the direction we are moving towards. And of course, dietary interventions is one of the major public health direction in which towards which we should be working. Personalized nutrition, of course, is a major direction in which, as I said earlier, is a major direction in which we can come up with interesting results where depending on, if you are having diabetes, then and I'm having diabetes, then what you should be eating is a different thing versus what I should be eating. And such recommendations can be done using AI. This has been shown already. This is a machine learning algorithm which was published in 2015. And a lot of research has happened after that where things are happening in this direction of personalized nutrition. And all of this work that we have done in the lab was done using curiosity-driven questions. As I said earlier, way back in 2015, we started this work. But today we have reached a place where there is a startup which has come out of this endeavor. It's called Foodoscope. It's under registration right now, but hopefully it will be, in the month of May, we'll be releasing. The tool is available on foodoscope.com, and the company registration will be over and we should be operational and serving our customers next month itself. As you can imagine, for me, who wanted to be an astronomer and become a gastronomer, it has been a long journey. And this has been an adventurous journey, including getting kicked out of IIT Jodhpur, by the way. It happened, by the way. That happened incidentally. And all of these fun stories will be coming up in a popular science book that I'm writing, which luckily has won India Science Book Fellowship for the last year. And the book will be coming out by the end of this year. It's tentatively called Digitally Delicious. I would like to stop it within time and with this quote by none other than Brilla Savarin. Brilla Savarin is the author of a book called Physiology of Taste, which was written 200 years back. And he coined the term gastronomy for the first ever time. And it has taken us 200 years to reach from gastronomy to computational gastronomy. But I hope that we should be dishing out, creating new recipes with the help of AI. And that reminds me of his quote, that the discovery of new dish confers more happiness on humanity than the discovery of a new star. So hopefully I should be able to discover new dishes to make humanity happier and healthier. So thank you.
Thank you so much. It's wonderful. From astronomer to a gastronomer. Great. We have a last speaker today, Professor Naveen Kumar from Delhi University, and he'll be talking on trust in AI systems. Professor Naveen Kumar.
Thank you. Very good afternoon. So we'll begin with a story. That father and child were sitting together, and father wanted to tell the child that what is a sport car. And as it was getting too complex for the child, father thought, let me show him some real sports car, and they went to a motorway bridge. So, so whenever father sees a sports car, speaks out, that's a sports car. So after 10 minutes or so, father says, do you understand what's a sports car? And of course, son has understood. And then a red Hyundai i30 sedan passes by. By the way, I've taken this story from Andrew's PhD thesis, Right for the Right Reason, Training the Neural Networks to be Interpretable, Robust, and Consistent with the Expert Knowledge. So this is obviously not a sports car. So what has gone wrong here? I'm sure you can guess that color is the culprit. Perhaps most of the sports cars that passed by were red, so the child learned that a red car means a sports car. Though it was bad enough, but still, in this case, father was fortunate that the child answered wrongly. Now, imagine if a sports car, red sports car had passed and the child has pointed out, here is a sports car. Then both father and child would have gone home and with the conviction that father has trained the child, whereas child has learnt nothing. So father says, why do you say so? Because it is red car. So this was a story. Now this is a real world example. An AI model learned that asthma leads to lower mortality risk for the pneumonia patient. This is as absurd as it could be. So what is the real story? Obviously we know that if a patient already has pneumonia, has a higher risk of dying. But it so happened in this case that the people who were pneumonia patients with a history of asthma, they were usually in a more serious condition, so they were directly moved to ICU. So their care level was substantially higher as compared to those who were admitted in a ward and later on shifted when their condition substantially deteriorated, so their survival was low. So it was not the prior history of pneumonia, but it was rather the aggressive care in the ICU that lowered the risk of dying from pneumonia. And improved prognosis. So the question is, are we lucky or unlucky to find this? We are unlucky enough, but still we are lucky here in the sense that we were given that pneumonia is a symptom. You know, it was fed as an input. So the doctors could immediately find out that this is a stupid model and just put it in the waste box. Now just imagine a situation where the fact that the patient has pneumonia was otherwise part of the other clinical history and it was coming out of other symptoms, then nobody would have guessed the error that the model created. So knowing the decisions is important and knowing the reasons is important. It is important for the clinicians, it is important for the social network companies, it's important for everyone. This is a picture of our Prime Minister, little outdated. So our Prime Minister was in Vietnam last year. And so this picture somehow popped up on my Facebook page. So when I clicked, it shows a lot of information, among them that why I'm seeing this post. When I clicked on this, it gives me reasons that you probably like and follow Narendra Modi, and this post from Narendra Modi is more popular compared to the other posts that I seen or I have flipped through on other social media networks, and so on. And then it asked me that whether this information is useful and why it is important for Facebook, because Facebook doesn't want to lose me. Because if people lose, then Facebook will lose on the business. So about 10 years ago, the situation was that AI was giving the outputs, and the person who gets the outputs will know nothing about why the model is giving this response and whether I can trust the model, or at least I can trust the model discriminately under some circumstances and not so much under all circumstances. So with the advent of explainable AI models that started coming up in 2015, now we understand why a particular model is giving a particular decision, and we know that whether to trust the model or at least when to trust the model. This is an example from Ribeiro's paper, that in this picture we see a AI model trying to distinguish between a wolf and a husky. So here we have 6 pictures, and 5 of them are correctly classified. Only the picture in the bottom leftmost, that a wolf is predicted as husky. So this seems to be giving fairly good accuracy. But if we try to see that what the model is seeing, the first picture shows we have the picture followed by what the learning model is trying to see. Then it was found that basically what the model is seeing is whether there is snow or there is no snow. So since most of the pictures or all the pictures of wolves were in the snowy background, so the model learned that if there is snow around, it should be wolf, and husky was predicted as wolf. Explainability has become important because in several countries, especially European countries, then banks are required to explain why a particular person is denied loan, because it is a question of the credibility and it causes a lot of agony to the person if the loan is denied. And similarly, in the criminal justice systems, AI is being used more and more. So we need to explain to our advocates that why the model is giving this particular result, and there could be a lot of biases in these models that we'll talk about in a while. This is another AI model, and which says that if gender is male and cold is person has cold and cough, then person is sick. This is a very elementary model, but still. And if the gender is female and the ID number is more than 200, then sick. Probably what has happened in this case is that obviously we know that if on a particular day, if patient is turning late, it doesn't mean the person is sick. So probably the model has learned in a scenario when the women are busy in the morning hours with the household and other duties. So when they are reporting in the late hours, so the model has learned that if a woman has come late and is, because if someone was critical, they would come anyway in the morning, but if they are coming late and they could be sick. So AI is omnipresent, and we know that wrong decisions can be costly and dangerous. And model understanding is critical because we need to provide a recourse to the affected individuals. And in this case, like husky versus wolf, now this has helped us to debug the model, because understanding why the model is giving wrong decisions has helped us to debug the model. And in the criminal justice system, it has helped us to correct the ethnic biases. Because what the model had learned was that with similar case histories, that it was identifying the African Americans as the serious offenders as compared to the white Americans. Because most of the people from the African American background, they were poor people, and they had the greater number of them were involved in crimes. The greater number of because of their because of their social background, but it doesn't mean that they are fundamentally criminals. So the model should have seen the criminal history. So instead of looking at the criminal history, model is giving more focus to the ethnic history. Realizing the importance of explainable AI models, explaining the decisions, this Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, DARPA, they launched an XAI initiative way back in 2016. As we have just seen, this has a similar objective, that the model should understand why certain decisions and why not a different decisions, when it will succeed, when it would fail, and how much trust to place and when to trust. Now, these explanations have to be comprehensible. They have to be comprehensible to the AI engineers. They have to be comprehensible to the common public. And the explanations have to be fine-tuned to. Because explaining why a particular decision is taken in terms of the thousands of features will make no sense to humans. Like in this case, there is a statement, experts in China found that the coronavirus can be spread through housefly. So looking at the words China, coronavirus, housefly, this message has been correctly classified as fake. So we understand that it looks like a good way of classifying. So this is a model for classifying the diabetic patients, diabetic versus non-diabetic. So the explanations should be locally faithful. What it means is that if we have a patient with certain characteristics, and if we deviate from those characteristics, does the model still give the similar prediction? If the prediction changes drastically with very little changes, then probably the model is not reliable. So in this case, model is explaining one prediction, that since the glucose level is greater than 141, BMI is greater than 36, even though the age is on the lower side, and generally we don't expect younger people to be diabetic, but still, considering the low insulin level and high thickness skin, this person is correctly labeled as diabetic. Then globally, these models can tell what are the features and how they behave. So in this model, here we are using shape values, and the model is trying to show that red means high values and low means blue means the low values, that the high glucose level are indicative of the diabetes, and high BMI is indicative of the diabetes, whereas the lower age is non-indicative, and it indicates that the person doesn't have diabetes. So it has been seen that as the complexity of the models increases, simple classification rules are understood by everybody. Simple regression models are understood by everybody, few features, and we know that those features which have higher weights are important. But as we move on to the neural networks, the models become more and more complex, and so reduces the interpretability or understandability. So I think we'll skip this. So this is a decision tree model, and it's a very simple model. It explains that since the glucose level is more than 127 and BMI is greater than 30, and glucose level is in fact much higher than 157, so the person should be diabetes. Such models are simple, but the trouble is that such simple models don't work for many situations. So these are inherently interpretable models, but those models which are not inherently interpretable, we need to build the complex interpretations of the models. This is the Ribeiro's model that it distinguishes between the two classes. So what he did was that he noted that this model is too complex to be explained. So what he worked out was that let me figure out a particular element and see how the model should behave. So let us construct a simple linear model and let us see within the vicinity if the linear model is understood, and if people can quickly see that linear model understandability is much easier, so then it should be all right. So Lloyd Shapley, we were talking about, was an economist who won the Nobel Prize. So what he did was that he explained that how to divide the payoffs among the players. And in the data science or AI community, so this was Lundberg and Lee, who 2017 picked up this idea, and the humans which are shown as by Shapley for the distribution of the money. So this corresponds to the features in case of the data science. So 4 people work on a project and there is a reward of 10,000 rupees. If we drop out one person, the reward is only 7,000. So can we say that this person has contributed 3,000? Yeah, with reservation, because it is possible that if we had picked up someone else, the figures could have been different. And so we have tried to be more rational over here, that let's one person do the job, let's see what is the contribution. Let 2 of them do the job, this blue and green or blue and red, and let all 3 do the job. And always take out the green person, green dressed person, and see what is the contribution, take out the average, and then you get some reasonable idea of what could be the contribution of this person. So here the same has been applied to this diabetes model. Skip this in the interest of time. So this is an example of the breast cancer subtype classification. So there are basically 5 classes, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 0 class. Now here on the left hand side, we see the broad perspective. Out of 20,000 genes, the model has been able to figure out some 30 odd genes which significantly impact the breast cancer subtypes. And here we see for one of these classes, which is labeled as class 4, and the top feature is this CLORF192 gene. This is this, this is this gene. So as you can see that here the different colors are showing that the significance of this gene for different classes. For it is most significant for class 4, as it is shown over here, that when we look at the class 4, we find that this is the most significant gene at the top. And again, as before, the blue values indicate the blue color indicates the lower expressions and the red indicates the higher expression level. That means the lower expression levels of this particular gene are indicative of the class 4. This is part of some of the work that we did in breast cancer subtype classification. So the data scientists have been struggling hard that once the decisions are made, can we, in the reverse direction, figure out that what is that caused the diseases. So in this picture on image classification, so the effort has been made to figure out that what parts of the figure, the red ones which are highlighted over here, so which correspond to the head and the face, that they are significant. Counterfactuals is another category of explanations that if you're, now the question we are asking is that if a patient is diagnosed as diabetes, so the patient would like to know that what is that I can do to do better. So that is a small change one makes in some feature, and then will making a change in some of the features help us to change the decision. So here the features were changed randomly. So age is 37, gender is female, and body mass is 38. So it's telling us that if you reduce the body mass to 20 and change the gender to male, then you probably don't have diabetes. But we know this kind of explanation is absurd and has no meaning. So it is possible to constrain these different features to the reasonable ranges and come out with the explanations so that they are within the reasonable range and not as absurd as this. So this is again trying to distinguish between Labrador and Gold Dragon by trying to add some noise over here. I think we'll skip this. So in general, these models have to be faithful, and as we can manipulate the machine learning models, so there is always a possibility to manipulate the post hoc explanations. It is possible for an AI engineer to construct explanation and fake explanations and try to convince the people, look, these are this so nice explanation, this is explained that, and so my model must be working fine. These explanations need to be stable to enhance our trust in the models, so that a minor changes in the data input do not change the stability of the model, do not change the stability of the explanations, and they are useful in the practice. This is one example of the machine learning community response to the COVID-19. So this paper appeared in the Nature Machine Intelligence Journal. They looked at 2,212 papers and removed 62 papers for the duplicates. Out of the remaining 1735 papers looking at the abstract and title were not found relevant. 415 papers were left. 95 of them were not eligible for several reasons, including that they did not propose or and they just tried to repurpose a model which is already documented elsewhere. And then thorough review was applied to 320 papers, and it was found that 258 papers were not eligible because they did not even consider these claim guidelines or guidelines, which is so important for the clinicians, that even they did not look at the basic guidelines. So this is a very serious matter, and there were several reasons, and some of the reasons were as simple as that the authors are claiming the data from the independent sources, whereas the sources are claiming that we have combined the data. I'll just conclude this with just one or two examples of the havocs that has been played by AI. We are all familiar with the Rohingya crisis. So it so happened that the Facebook algorithms, which were optimized to increase the user engagement, they learned that the spread of the hate speech is much more engaging than sane advice. So some of the people had posted, given certain things against the Rohingyas, and not that there were no sane voices, there were larger number of sane voices, but the face learning algorithms learned that user engagement is more with the hate speech. So they popped up, they start spreading this, and then 2018 US fact-finding mission concluded that the Facebook had been a useful instrument for vilifying the Rohingyas. Amnesty International opinion and the Meta report, their own findings also admitted that they had not done enough to stop the hate speech. Of course, if it was done by an individual, he would have been in jail for the rest of life. But since it was done by an algorithm, so no action could be taken. COMPASS was this correctional offender management profiling for alternative sanctions. So this was being excessively used in the judicial criminal systems. And what it learned was that strong biases, as I already mentioned, that an African American was twice as likely to be blamed as a serious offender as compared to the white defendant having the similar criminal backgrounds. YouTube also did the same thing with respect to the hate engagement. To the naive users, it starts showing the videos. I think we'll skip this. Deepfakes, by all colleagues have already talked about. And these days we are talking of the AI managed weapon control. We know that all these many of these systems are also under the threat of being compromised. And if a system is compromised, and what havoc can it play? It could lead to an accidental atomic war, or I'll close with this last example of the discriminatory hiring algorithm. Past hiring decisions favored the male genders, and Amazon was applying these, and finally when a lot of complaints were raised, they realized it was really doing a bad job, and they scrapped this tool. So similar experiences were held in Netherlands and elsewhere. So conclude with the Stephen Hawking's that the greatest enemy of knowledge is not ignorance, it is the illusion of knowledge. So we need to be very, very careful about what we learn with AI. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We now have time for a few quick questions from the audience. Yes, so we'll start with you.
Thank you for giving me the first question, and thank you to everybody who spoke. Some very interesting conversations. My question
can't
is...
hear you properly.
Hello?
Yeah, now it's better.
Okay. So my question is for Professor Ahmad, hi, and Professor Bagler. Hi, I hope I pronounced that correctly. So anybody can answer this if you have the answer. One of the reasons that the Western countries and Singapore and China have been able to succeed in producing cutting-edge AI technology is that they've recognized something quite essential about AI, which is that it's an interdisciplinary field, right? So you have to draw from not just computer science and neuroscience, but also linguistics and philosophy. Almost everybody mentioned Alan Turing, but he was not actually a computer scientist. He was a philosopher and a logician. And so if we had more philosophers working on this, maybe we would be able to have like an updated version of the Turing test. So Professor Mohanty spoke at length about AlphaFold, but that was based on AlphaGo, which is a system designed to win the game of Go. Agar हम लोग पूरा दिन games खेलने लगे तो हमारे parents हमें घर से बाहर निकाल देंगे. So my question to you is, you also mentioned getting kicked out of IIT Jodhpur. So how do you build an ecosystem here in India where young people like myself and like other young people in this room feel like we can actually draw ideas from anywhere and we can pull innovative technologies from anywhere and in any discipline, because the knowledge paradigm here is so segregated, because the people who study science, the people who study arts, the people who study economics are sad. And so that is just my question, because I would really like for people from here not to feel like they have to run away abroad to work on the things they actually want to do and actually feel like they can do it here.
Would you,
Thank you. First question, why India has not been, we have not been able to do as well in the field of AI or the other research. So one ironical part of AI today is AI is now completely a resource and infrastructure driven science. If you do not have heavy investments, if you do not have thousands of GPUs running, whatever capability, soft capability you may have, you will not be able to generate the kind of foundational models that OpenAI and if you look at the investments that has gone into these companies, so that is the biggest bottleneck for our country. I think this is what we as researchers perhaps cannot do much about it, and perhaps economies at the economy level also, it is not a question that can be easily addressed. This is the one question. What was your other question? Interdisciplinary, yeah, we have National Education Policy, NEP is already promoting interdisciplinary. We have I come from a school in JNU which is called School of Computational and Integrative Sciences. So integrative, interdisciplinary approaches have been there, and they have been pretty successful. And I think it's not just the interdisciplinary thing. It is about the infrastructure, the training, and also historical reasons that we have not been able to pick up that first. But the gap is reducing in many areas.
Thank you. We'll have to move on now. Yes.
Just
Over coffee you can do it.
No, Professor Bagler didn't get
Over coffee. We have a lot of questions. Yes.
I have a small question from Dr. Ganesh. The way we are going forward right now, cooking is becoming expensive at home. And factory food and standardization of taste is becoming a new norm. So do you think that the future of individual cooking and how AI technology can help? And one small question from Debasisa sir also.
Yeah.
So after.
Very quickly, I'll answer, and of course, we'll take most of the questions over the tea. Personalized cooking is under danger. Home cooking is under danger. That's a fact of the matter. And there are countries which do not have 1 BHK, 2 BHK. They have 1 BH, 2 BH. No K. That has happened already. No K. No kitchen is there, right? So it is already happening. Dark kitchens are all aggravating this matter. What I do personally see is that something like that we have developed, computational gastronomy. If it can enable people people who are interested into getting into cooking, enthuse them into getting cooking, make cooking as accessible as possible, then this situation can be reversed as much as possible. I don't think I can help with inflation of ingredient prices, but I can definitely make sure that at least culinary knowledge is as accessible as possible. Right? We'll talk.
So,
we need to follow up for the coffee time.
all right. So,
Coffee
sir,
time.
one question from the
Yeah,
Debasisa.
he will answer.
Sir, the question is sequencing data analysis is time consuming and needs a lot of expertise, DNA sequencing, microbiome, etc. So do you see that this can be automated and AI can help and India can get into these kind of technologies?
Yeah, it has already been automated to large extent. Like as Professor Hasnain said, I mean, this AI model which they developed is already 5 years back. It is this thing. So there is a lot more happening in the sequencing area where use application of AI and people are even using the DNA sequence to develop language models. Even protein sequence, like one of the AlphaFold, I didn't have time, there was a thing called ESM fold, which is a language-based, model-based protein folding. So, and same thing is coming to, like, there are DNA language models called Grover. So they have taken all DNA sequences and trained language models, and what is believed that is they're doing better prediction than many of the things. Like what LLMs have this ability to use that, like unannotated data to develop a embedding which is better in predictions. That's already happening.
I can just add in his lab and Dr. Shandar's lab are already doing in a big scale, trying to look at the sequence and then getting sense out of that. Yes.
My question is to Dr. Shandar. I think you started off your lecture by asking the question, what is intelligence? Almost everyone mentioned Debasisa and AlphaGo. And I think you mentioned that AlphaGo had, they'd taken AlphaGo to South Korea and they won a game of Go. Or it was probably you, Doctor. Sorry, my apologies. My point being, in one of the games, AlphaGo played a move which everyone thought was nonsensical, But later, the developers found that, in fact, maybe one of the things that it's trying to teach us is that our understanding of what it means to win is quite different from what it thought it to be. So for example, we generally think in sports that winning should be score, as if you have a large gap in scores, that is a good metric of winning, right? For example, in football or in basketball, the larger the gap, the better chances of you winning. But by that example of AlphaGo trying to tell us that that perhaps is not the best understanding of what it means to win, then shouldn't we ask ourselves, in the age of AI, what does human understanding itself means of these social constructs of, let's say, winning, justice, ethical conundrums in our lives, things like that?
So quickly.
Yeah, exactly. So it plays quite well into her question as
So
well.
AI does not address value system. The values goes out. AI tells you, you ask, this is my goal, this is what I want to achieve, and AI will tell you what is the best way to achieve it. Now, what you want to achieve, this goal, the consequentialism as it is called, the consequentialism is not part of the AI. AI, the consequence will be decided by you. Your values will decide, I want equitable distribution of wealth, or I want to have this kind of an economic distribution, values. This AI will not decide. This will be you will set the goals, and AI will give you what is the best way to achieve it.
Okay, may I ask? May I ask?
Yes.
Yeah, very quick. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Yeah?
You can.
Okay. Mine's a very quick, short question, and I'd really like the opinion of all the speakers in this. Do you think that the medium of AI, the computer, the machine, whatever, can it have an Oiroka moment? Can it have a apple on the head, gravity, Newton's gravity moment?
Who would like to answer?
They're super intelligent, but can this happen?
Scientific discovery itself, can it be automated using AI, is loosely what you are trying to ask. In fact, I had the privilege of being in Japan where they are trying to create a Nobel Turing award or prize. That's what they are trying to create. So in summary, it sounds difficult at the moment whether it is possible to have an AI model which can capture the human intelligence in a way such that it can come up with an eureka moment, but it is not too far, at least in the narrow domains. In narrow domains, for example, if you want to generate a new vaccine, for example, humans were good at doing it, for example, but can machine help us, assist us in doing it? It is already doing it. Can it have as generic as that of Newton's Eureka moment? I wonder, I don't know as of now, but wouldn't be surprised if it does happen in the recent future time.
Yeah, this is very interesting question, and I'll refer, perhaps some of you may have read this book, 0 to 1 by Thial. In this book, he has actually said that the breakthroughs do not come incrementally, through incremental research, and most of the computational models, including AI, basically try to model the average behavior of what is already there. So this eureka moment is less likely to come from AI. Definitely, this is where the domain still lies with the human, but eureka moments also have to be supported by the best technologies. Any new idea is not necessarily a good idea. The veracity of the idea and the reliability and how to reach there, so that is where the tools will be required.
Yes.
Yeah. Hello.
I think eureka moment has already arrived, in my opinion. And with what AI promises to do, we are going to get more and more. But the caution here is, we don't know how much to take out of the the negativity of it, the manipulation of that. So that's something to be worried about. Especially we know what kind of manipulations can be done with this kind of a technology.
Thank you, sir, to give me an opportunity to ask a question. Actually, this is not the question. This is my worry. My daughter, she is in class 12th. She was preparing a project and getting the help from the AI. And I asked, beta aap aisa mat karo, ye plagiarism mein aa jayega. Then she typed how we can remove the plague from this project. So this is my worry, how she can, means the intellectual growth of the child and the impact of the AI on the kids, how we can procure ourselves, sir. This is suggestion
in
and
fact,
question.
This is a very good question, and I don't know what to answer, because ChatGPT is in fact killing the inner instinct, and absolutely, which is a fact. So I think over a period of time, perhaps it'll be self-correction would be there somewhere. Right now, it is indeed a big problem. ChatGPT is a big problem. Just one second. Yeah, we are coming.
My question is to two of them, Dr. Shandar and Dr. Mohanty. We have talked so much about AI and the way the machine is taking over us and all our intelligence. It can defeat the world champion, chess champion, it can do everything. Are we looking at a scenario where tomorrow meaning not really tomorrow, all the professors and the experts and the expertise are going to be redundant and will depend so much on the machine, and we only need a pair of hands, not the intelligence?
What do you?
I don't think so. I already said that we have to raise the human game up. We have to assume that this AI is there, and that should be our starting point. We have to go beyond how we use AI. We are perhaps still thinking of plagiarism in the context, the way we see creativity, the way we see knowledge in the past. That is not how we'll see knowledge in the future. That is how the AI will be used to produce, and what we produce in the end, that has to be modified. And how it should be eventually modified, that we do not know yet. That is where we have to go. So I don't think there is anything to be worried about in this context. We have to adopt the technology, and we have to see how we can utilize to do better, and how we define the achievement, the human creativity in the new context.
Would you like to add?
I think what is going to happen is, of course, it is only replacing repetitive or time-consuming tasks and all. See, even now, when I was doing PhD, we were trying to develop some model when these automated softwares came for predicting protein structure, modeling proteins. My friends who do experiment were saying, you are spending years to do this thing, and now this software is so user-friendly, you can design any protein, but it didn't happen. So there are challenges are going to be more, like despite Debasisa's claim that drug discovery is going to be easier, it will be faster and all, but there will be still significant challenges where human intervention would be required. And to the other question what sir was asking, she's like this one. See, sometimes when the kids take help of this, we can think of it as an open book exam. Like quite often in IITs, they give open book exam. That means the questions have to be different, and you do not give questions which the kid can just rely. So now we have to design our questions in such a way. We know the kid will use ChatGPT, kid will this one. That is where you can test. And one of the very interesting article I read it was an English school teacher. It is one of the newspaper. He had given very nice examples how he can distinguish between a essay written by ChatGPT versus actual student writing. So he said that, okay, I can pick emotions there, like when a person is thinking and this thing, from the language or the way the words are used, he can sense the emotion of this, which probably the ChatGPT regular thing will not have, but things are changing. Probably people can build emotions into this one. So it's a game which is competition is going on. So
I can just add to what is being said right now. I can tell you a real example. You know, I was in Cambridge in the UK, and one of the person who was with me, he knew what we are doing, what kind of work we are doing. So he came up with a paper. He says, look, I have made a paper based on the kind of work you have been doing, and I think this paper will go to a top journal. When I looked at that, I said, oh my God, everything looks superb. When I looked a little more closely, I realized that the references are all fake. They're all fake. It doesn't exist at all. So I think a time will come where there will be self-correction. And you know, when we were students, we also went through open book exam. And those exams are more difficult than exams that were given closed book. Questions here.
Good evening, and thank you to all for enlightening us. I have a question and also an observation. The question is how artificial intelligence can combat climate change. How we will be able to improve those conditions that we are experiencing today. And second, my observation is this, it is very interesting. My daughter fell ill and doctor suspected blood pressure high. So the readings were given by 2-3 doctors differently. So she sent all the readings to my doctor, and then he also gives some different view of what medicine she should take. So she said, "Tumhara doctor ka chhoro, my assistant is ChatGPT." She asked ChatGPT, and ChatGPT said kapha, bathva, all kinds of Ayurvedic medicine, and all kinds of Ayurvedic interpretation. And what she was looking, she did not get in ChatGPT. What my point is that you have to instruct the artificial intelligence in such a manner that they understand the human mind also. It's not that he is the super.
Absolutely wonderful comment.
Yeah, I think now recently artificial intelligence is now sentimental also. They can have feeling, sentiment. And now in most part of Japan, people have artificial woman, then a girlfriend, so that they can have as per their choice of woman instead of a real woman which is unable to handle it. So I think very soon we will have a sentimental instrument also.
Comment noted. I think we'll last question now. Okay, we'll come back to you. You'll be the last question.
First of all, thank you very much. As a member of the IIC, I think this is a quite interesting session. I look forward to have you, not just the medical sciences, but also the day-to-day aspect of AI implications on our life. Many things we talk about with that. I have a question. India, you said Indians have the best brain. India has the jugaad. Indians were at the forefront when Y2K happened. We have some of the big software companies which is running most of the public utilities around the world. Why we are lagging behind? We talked about the Chinese who came up, and there were acquisitions that they actually stole the data, whatever cost. I'm not getting into all that. Why we are not in the semiconductor, which is what is going to be the future. We are not into AI so far. We've been talking about it for last over 10 years, 15 years. Why there is no comprehensive corporate? I'm not blaming the government. The Infosys of the world, the Wipros of the world, TCS, the HCL, all these companies wrecks in money, billions of transactions. Why are they not allocating the AI tools which can have impact on our day-to-day life, which is the health tools, the people who are coming from, the data. I mean, I will just give you an example, since you all are from the outside AIMS, we see people sleeping on the pavements, because just to get an appointment. Can't we have an AI tool which can connect them to, everybody has a smartphone, most of the people, who are there, So can we as a sort of experts and as a, somebody, what are we going to do with this, about this AI, sort of thing?
I think it's a very good question you have raised, because this is also what I mentioned about it. Why has India not, I would say, exploited this opportunity? I think things are changing, my friend, especially with what's happening transatlantically. I won't name the country, which is reinventing itself, trying to make it great again. It's not making it great again. It's going to make other countries great again. And this reverse migration is going to help us. What is needed now is our big multinationals in India. We have the biggest IT people around the world. All of the IT services across the world are done by Indians. But where? Located in India, because there's not much investment required. So I think time has come where our jugaad has to now go into investment together. I think it will happen. I'm an optimist, and I believe it will happen. The last question to Professor Abhi.
Well, I came to this seminar really to get educated in AI, and I think I have learned quite a few new things. I work on languages. I'm a linguist. And what I get, that the success of AI is actually based on large language models. So you need a very huge database to produce what AI has produced so far. Coming closer to home, I would like to know whether this model AI has at all succeeded as far Indian languages are concerned. And if it has, I would also like to know whether the AI can simulate words that exist in our languages for Panchendriya, for various 5 senses of perception. I do not know how many people do you know that before the Green Revolution came, Odisha produced 1700 different kinds of rice. And each rice had a different taste and a different name for that taste. Can AI produce, can your ChatGPT produce that? 1000 more than words are there in Khasi, to perceive the action of crying, going, walking, or even eating, you see. Then there are many, like 18 different names of smells in Great Andamanis. The richness of linguistic diversity, the Indian languages cannot be, summarized in few words. But I would like to know how AI has come closer to home, how it is simulating or giving us this kind of information. Do our students, Indian students, have this information at all or not?
I don't think I can answer this question, but I can tell you one thing. When the news, I have a colleague, a friend of mine who's working at JAM Emilia, and the only thing she wrote to me, why there is no session on AI and languages, AI and literature, especially in Indian context. I said, I'm very sorry, I should have thought about it. We didn't put anybody in that. But I think this is a very good question. It deserves to be done. I'm sure somebody would be able to do it.
Sir, our next event will be on paperless literature. Yes. So we are going to discuss that.
So with this, we now move to the final.
I have a last question.
Okay, please.
See, with each day we are moving closer to AI in all aspects of our life. We have driverless cars, we have driverless trains, we have robots in the workplace as industrial robots. There have been incidents where robots have killed. There have been incidents in Japan, in the United States, in Korea, in Japan. Now the thing is, what are the legal implications? What are the legal implications as far as the victim is concerned, and then as far as the producers of those industrial robots or machines are concerned? Do you have any law in India like that?
A good question, but to my knowledge, there is no law. I think we will still have a long way to go. So perhaps time will come when we will start working on it. I think we'll now come to the last part of our discussion today. May I now invite Dr. Usha, Mujoo, Munshi to sum up and give a vote of thanks.
Once again, good evening, distinguished speakers, esteemed guests and participants. I have the honor of presenting this session, summation, and proposing the vote of thanks. But I must confess that since this has been generated on the fly, and you would pardon me if there are some gaps. Now, today's proceedings have vividly illuminated that the Odyssey of artificial intelligence is not merely a technological journey. It is, above all, a profound societal, philosophical, and human endeavor. From advancing scientific inquiry to reshaping societal structures, from reimagining our relationship with food to emphasizing the indispensable role of trust, today's deliberations have urged us to regard AI not as an end in itself, but as a means to elevate humanity's highest aspirations. The Conclave invited us to move beyond the technical marvels of models like DeepSeek and to engage with profound questions that now confront us. How do we reconcile the dazzling capacities of AI with the imperatives of conscience, equity, and human dignity? As AI becomes not merely a tool but a co-shaper of society, how do we infuse it with ethical intentionality? How can we craft a future where AI amplifies human potential without undermining human agency? We are poised at a critical inflection point. The very systems that personalize our experiences, optimize industries, and accelerate innovation simultaneously raise urgent concerns of data encoded with algorithms, of data privacy increasingly imperiled, of jobs and livelihoods rendered precarious, and of decision-making processes rendered opaque to human scrutiny. The conversations we had today were not only deeply informed by technical sophistication, but also animated by a profound ethical imagination in rethinking AI's role in society. We are, in essence, rethinking the future of our civilization itself. The dialogue we have witnessed today reaffirms our essential truth that the true measure of progress lies not in how intelligent our machines become, but in how wisely and compassionately we choose to harness that intelligence. The National Conclave on Odyssey of AI Challenges and Opportunities Beyond DeepSeek commenced with welcome remarks by Shri K and Shrivastava, Director, India International Center. He emphasized the critical need to reflect thoughtfully on the rapidly evolving landscape of artificial intelligence, reminding us that alongside these promises lie profound societal and ethical questions that demand our engagement. Professor Seyed Hasnain, National Science Chair, IIT Delhi, in his introductory remarks, skillfully set the tone for the afternoon by articulating the conclave's central theme, from code to conscience, rethinking AI's role in society. His words framed our discussions in the broader context of societal well-being, shared responsibility, and the call to consciously shape the trajectory of AI innovation. The first session, technical session, featured Professor Debasisa Mohanty, Director, National Institute of Immunology, who spoke on navigating the new world of AI/ML, a user's perspective, offering invaluable insights from a research and user-centric standpoint. Professor Mohanty highlighted how AI and machine learning are not abstract concepts, but powerful enablers transforming everyday scientific practice and knowledge creation. AI has emerged as the catalyst behind unprecedented advancements across a multiple of fields, accelerating the expansion of human knowledge. Professor Mohanty further highlighted how computational linguistics has revolutionized the way we conduct research and deepen our understanding of language. This was followed by Professor Shandar, Ahmad, former Dean School of Computational and Integrative Science at Jawaharlal Nehru University, who delivered a thought-provoking talk on the societal impact of AI. His reflections challenged us to move beyond technical fascination toward a deeper integration of AI's effect on power structures, ethics, inclusion, and human agency. He also tackled the pressing issues of plagiarism, the rise of fake content, even if not generated by AI, and algorithmic bias, stressing the urgent need for effective solutions. He identified who holds the responsibility for addressing these challenges and introduced cutting-edge technological tools for detection. On a lighter note, Professor Shandar shared a caricature that read, "I know so much, I don't know where to begin." This perfectly captures the essence of how AI and ML can help us navigate and uncover the most relevant insights from a sea of information. The third session offered a refreshing interdisciplinary perspective through Dr. Ganesh Bagler of the Infosys Center for Artificial Intelligence, IIIT Delhi. In his captivating presentation on computational gastronomy, blending food with AI/ML, he unveiled how AI is being creatively harnessed to transform food sciences, health informatics, and human well-being. His work illuminated the fascinating convergence of data science, nutrition, and culture, reminding us that frontiers of AI are not confined to traditional domains, but extend profoundly into the most intimate dimensions of human life. Professor Bagler stated, transforming cooking into an art form through data and AI, making food not just a sensory experience, but also a computable masterpiece. Theoretical recipes numbering 10 to the power of 30. Now that is a culinary cosmos, I think. It's a mind-boggling figure, and the truth he told, we have barely scratched the surface of this gastronomic galaxy, mastering even a tiny fraction to please our picky taste buds. Let's just say we are still burning toast on level 1. The good news, but he said, is a computer can now think like a chef. Thanks to cutting-edge research and development, as Professor Bagler enthusiastically shared. The final session was led by Professor Naveen Kumar, head of the Department of Computer Science, University of Delhi, who addressed trust in AI systems. His lucid articulation of the principles of transparency, accountability, and explainability as the foundation for sustainable AI systems deeply resonated with the core aspirations of the conclave. Professor Naveen Kumar shared that explainable AI has been key in revealing why a model produces a specific response, making its decisions more transparent, trustworthy, and reliable without compromising accuracy. He shed light on the limitations of the explainability in AI, emphasizing key challenges such as faithfulness, whether explanations truly reflect the model's reasoning, fragility, how explanations can change with minor input variations, and stability, the need for consistent, reliable interpretations across similar cases. Following these rich presentations, we witnessed a stimulating Q&A session where the audience engaged with passion and intellectual curiosity, raising critical questions that mirrored the complexity of the world AI is helping to shape. Finally, today's deliberations have offered a compelling reminder that artificial intelligence is not merely a technological phenomenon. It is above all a human journey from advancing scientific discovery to challenging societal paradigms. AI invites us to reimagine the very fabric of our shared future. The insights shared today reaffirm that true challenge before us is not simply to create smarter systems, but to build wiser, more compassionate societies to harness technology with conscience and to align innovation with humanity's highest aspirations. On that note, I express profound gratitude to our distinguished speakers, to Professor Debasisa Mohanty for highlighting the transformative experiences of AI users and making tangible its promises and its challenges, to Professor Shandar Ahmad for his critical reflections on the societal and ethical landscapes that AI is reshaping, to Ganesh Bagler for opening a fascinating window into interdisciplinary innovation and showing us how AI can nourish not just our intellect, but our culture and health, to Professor Naveen Kumar for underlining the centrality of trust in the architecture of a sustainable and ethical AI future. A very special thanks to Professor Seyed Hasnain for his scholarly leadership throughout the sessions, for connecting ideas with precision and vision, and for guiding our discussions with exceptional depth. I'm deeply grateful to Shri K and Shrivastava, Director in the International Center, for his steadfast support and for envisioning this platform for critical dialogue on issues of national and global importance. I also wish to express my sincere appreciation to Ambassador Shamsaran, President of India International Center, and Professor Meenakshi Gopinath, Life Trustee and Chairperson, Library Committee, whose steadfast guidance and encouragement have consistently empowered us to venture into uncharted territories and engage with unfamiliar domains. To our engaged audience, your insightful presence, probing questions, and commitment to deep inquiry have truly enriched this conclave. To my senior colleagues at IIC and to organizing team whose tireless and seamless efforts have made today's event a success, my heartfelt thanks to all of them. Finally, I hope this conclave has paved the way for new pathways where AI is not only efficient, but also equitable, not only powerful, but also principled. I leave you with the thought, let's not shape artificial intelligence, only shape artificial intelligence. Let us ensure it strengthens the very intelligence of our humanity. Thank you very much for your attention. You are warmly invited to join us for tea, which is being served outside. Thank you very much. There is a request that all the speakers come this